Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. And here we are in September with the video games fresh out of the oven. September games here for you, falling off of trees like leaves. So smash them pumpkins. Dress up as your favorite video game character. Fall is here. Alex Navarro.
They killed Concord.
They certainly did.
They killed it.
No, Alex, you killed Concord.
Fresh out of the oven and onto the floor.
Are you saying it's the fall of Concord?
It usually takes more than 2 weeks for leaves to fall off a tree.
Rectum, damn near autumn.
What have we done here, man?
Brad Shoemaker, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I guess September has killed and will kill again.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to tell you guys. You should have played more Concord. I don't know.
I was playing Concord. That's the fucked up thing. I was actually playing that game.
I also had been hovering. I mean, we've got other games coming in that we are trying to cover, but like I had also been hovering over that game, thinking like, I had a good time with the beta. I was all thinking about playing it, and then damn, I guess not.
We have no one to blame but ourselves. We are all terrible gamers.
I tried.
People.
I mean, not very hard, but I tried. I did play it at least once or twice after we did, it came out and I played it for the podcast. Like, I put in a little bit of time with it. I was like, all right, as they add things to it, maybe I'll warm to this thing.
Look, we're going to get to it when we get to the news.
I know.
And we'll go over the details. But Concord, just to be clear, not dead. Going into an induced coma, going back into the oven.
Cryostasis.
I don't know, man. That language is... We'll talk about it.
It could be back. Better than ever. Tosh 2.0. The popular things that come back in a different version.
If it's going to come out like Tosh 2.0, they can just leave it back in the cryostasis. That's fine. Man. I'm sorry. I had to blurt that out because it is just such a nutso thing.
It's crazy. I mean, fuck, man. Maybe we should have just started with news. It is like, it's kind of up there with the Cyberpunk situation, frankly.
Well, and I think in terms of live service stuff, maybe we see more of this going forward when it's like, you got one swing here, and if you do not connect with the ball, you do not want to waste your millions of dollars putting your team together. So come back, try again. Maybe a less crowded market, let a little time pass.
This isn't not connecting with the swing. This is walking out of your corner, like getting ready to make one punch and then just falling over.
For those that don't know exactly what we're talking about, again, we'll get to it in our news section. The headline is Concord will be shutting down its servers on the 6th, that's this Friday at the time of this recording, and they're offering refunds. And
I mean, we are continuing to cannibalize our news segment here. I'm not sure that they're offering refunds so much as compelling refunds.
Yeah,
like the language is such that I think that may not be voluntary.
We'll see what happens, and we'll talk more in detail about it later in the show, alongside some other news we have this week. But we got some games to talk about, so let's just jump right into it. A game that I think we're all pretty excited to get our hands on. A little guy named Astro Bot. Sony's official, unofficial mascot. I think
at this point it's as official as it's going to get.
Yep. Yes, they have. PlayStation has a mascot, finally.
Finally.
After damn near 30, good God, it's 30 years, right? Since didn't the PlayStation come out in Japan in 94?
That's 30 years right. In. Yeah, 95
Crash
years
Bandicoot, unofficial PlayStation mascot.
Kind of, yes, exactly. It was always unofficial and then got scooped up by another evil corporation and became unavailable.
But then, there was Jak and Daxter, there was the Ratchet and Clank games, which, I mean, are their own spins on the mascot platformer. It's just that none of them really felt like this is PlayStation's Mario. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they definitely have a great stable of characters from that era. Like, Parappa could have been the mascot.
Yeah.
Imagine if Parappa had been with us all this time.
Well, hang on, I'm imagining a world where rhythm games could be at that level of a mascot platformer, and I'm going to a serene place right now.
The interesting thing about Astro Bot, the official Astro Bot game here for the PlayStation 5, is that it incorporates almost all of PlayStation's would-be mascots into its lovely, charming celebration of Sony life throughout the ages. If you've played Astro's Playroom or pretty much any of the Astro products, then you probably know what the vibe here is, and that is all joy in Sony products.
Love your hardware, caress your hardware, treat your hardware as if it is a deity.
Revere your hardware and get a lot of collectibles in the nostalgia vibe for Sony stuff.
I mean, like Playroom was the literal caress your hardware game. I mean, they basically stopped short of putting VR support in that game and letting you actually fondle it, but pretty close.
Yep.
This seems to have kind of gone in a slightly different direction or doubled down on different stuff, but
it's adjacent, I would say. You are well, I guess I'll say first off, we were sent codes for Astro Bot, and I was sent a lovely Astro Bot controller, which I have to say, I do not go in on limited edition stuff, but I'm holding it up for Brad and Alex in case they hadn't seen it.
Yes.
This is an adorable controller. This is one I was tracking the pre-orders on before they sent it. I've canceled that tracking because I now have it, because I was very curious. It's in the model of the Astro Bot controller, or is the Astro Bot controller used in the game?
Yeah, which you basically like just fly around on when you were going from place to place.
And it's a charming controller. My kids love it. Now they all want to use it. But it doesn't have any special it doesn't. Yeah, it's working. It doesn't have any special functionality. It's got the eyes painted on the trackpad. They do not do anything like move around, or they are just stenciled on there. They're not going to dart around. The trackpad does not flip up, and you do not have little robots inside of your controller.
It's not an LED screen. They can't do that.
They could do that. They
not for the kind of money they're selling it for.
Not for this controller.
And Sony's always been big on cosmetic stuff like that, but They ain't exactly swapping the Xbox system sounds out with Halo sounds or anything like Microsoft would do.
No, and it's not. I should say it's not a what's Sony's version of the Elite PlayStation controller.
God, what is that thing?
I forgot they even had one.
Yeah, it's not that controller. It is, but it is
the DualSense Edge.
DualSense Edge. I am very curious to see how this holds up over time. It is a very nice white at this point, with very nice white rubber nubbins for the analog sticks. How munged up can I make those, and how quickly can I destroy the pristineness of this controller?
Let's find out.
So the reason I bring this up, aside from I kind of dig it, just the look of it, and again, I'm not a limited edition kind of person. I just like that blue on it. This game, it should probably come as no surprise, just does the best haptics and use of the speaker for the controller, the hardware, that kind of any Sony product.
Oh yeah, I mean,
third party or first party does.
That's what Astro Bot is the spokesmodel for whatever new tech or doodad that Sony is putting out. Like their job is to get that in front of you and say, look at all the things you can do with it. But now they don't have to do that, because they can just make a full game that just happens to take advantage of all those things.
And we probably mentioned some of this during the preview stuff. Brad, you saw this, I think, at Summer Games Fest. I saw it in an event in New York. Like all Astro Bots walking on glass, all the little tink, 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 all the little sounds. They have like just tiny little haptics. They have like tiny little sounds. It really is just some of the... I usually am a turn the controller speaker off immediately person for most games. Actually, in Star Wars, we'll get to it in a bit.
It's very loud.
I was almost just like, I'm just going to turn this off. Not in the Astro Bot game. So, hardware stuff out of the way. What do you guys think of this?
Yeah, like you were saying, like look and feel, it is like shockingly similar to Playroom. Like to the point that I think like a lot of the music is just like somewhat rearranged versions of kind of the same music from that game in some cases, like the boss music. Like you said, the haptics all feel kind of identical. Like it's, if you played Playroom and if you have a PS5, surely you did. You extremely know what you're getting into here.
Or you should have.
Yeah.
Yes, you should have.
But in terms of scope of this, it is a bigger adventure. This is a full $60 game. This is a platformer at its core.
Not a $70 game though, right?
No, not not full price. What are we calling that at this point?
Like close to full price?
It's full PC price.
Yes. Yeah, it's like I guess they've gone for like kind of the Mario, like the mid-period Mario style of like overworld with icons that you go into. Like the galaxies are basically worlds from Super Mario 3.
Yeah, so you have a hub world. The story here is you're flying around and all the Astro Bots, I guess they're all Astro Bots, aren't we all Astro Bots, are flying around.
I had that thought as I was playing it. Like, are you playing the Astro Bot?
I think you are.
Are you Astro Bot? And then everybody else is just like, nah. Or
Astro Bot wears a cape.
Are you just one of many?
Not all Astro Bots wear capes. And the PlayStation 5 goes up against a goobly gobbly alien in a UFO.
Yeah, the PS5 is their mothership, we should say, which they seem to. Let's say there's going to be a new model of PlayStation 5 on the scene in the near future. They have jumped the gun on, or I guess they've missed the boat is the metaphor.
Maybe. I don't know.
For some upcoming brand synergy, or maybe they'll patch it in.
I have not finished this game, so the process of this game is the PlayStation gets what seems like it's a CPU or some integral part ripped out by this alien, crash lands, and then pretty much explodes in space, and everything goes flying all over the universe there. So maybe in the course of rebuilding this PS5, you find some upgraded pieces, and it is truly Astro Bot who brings us to the era of the PS5 Pro. Who knows? That would
be appropriate.
But that is the kind of conceit of the game. You are going through different galaxies, like Brad said, kind of like Mario style, and you go into a galaxy which has a bunch of different worlds in it. But this game feels like it is meant to poke around the edges to find all of these secrets in your kind of mostly linear platform level, but it's kind of like the playroom levels where you would just poke around a corner to find a bot, poke around a corner to find a secret entrance to go somewhere. It's very clear how many secrets are on the level, which I appreciate. Like, hey, there are 7 bots on this level, 3 puzzle pieces which unlock things in your hub, and a warp zone on this level, and you can 100% it and be done on that level and know that you're done. I think coins are just used in the gacha machine. From what I can tell.
At least that I've seen so far. I don't know that I've only maybe 100%ed like one level on the first try so far. Like, a lot of the stuff is like pretty well hidden.
Yeah.
Like, I'll typically miss like at least 1 or 2 bots. Even looking at the gauge and going like, ah, shit, I just missed a bot, and like panning the camera everywhere, and I'll eventually just move on because some of it is like pretty surprisingly well hidden.
I've gotten every bot on a run through because I will just kind of keep banging my head against the level until I find it, because like you said, you can see if it skips a bot in your progression meter, that means in the course of the level you have missed one, which I always appreciate. The warp zones or whatever the black hole things are on the level are the things that I have not gotten that make me not get 100%. So as you do all the levels in a galaxy, I've only finished the first, or I don't know, solar system, whatever you want to call it. I'll call it a galaxy. You kind of march your way through. There are optional levels that'll pop up, and really the entire, for me, point of the game is to get the bots. There are regular bots, and then there are mascot bots, and you want to get those mascot. You want to do a couple of things. You want to get the mascot bot, which usually it seems like they are either explicitly or loosely themed per level. Like, hey, you're just going to get all the Ratchet bots.
Here's all these level. Metal Gear bots.
Yeah, here's all the Metal Gear bots.
There's a surprising number so far of non-Sony property bots in here.
But they are properties that you would at least associate with a PlayStation era of some
absolutely.
kind.
It's like Solid Snake and Psycho Mantis or Alucard and Richter Belmont. It's like very much like, hey, these games were PlayStation games. You know that.
And then the other thing, you want to get those bots, you want to collect them, and then back in your hub world, in the gacha machine, you want to unlock their little play set so that you can then see Solid Snake in his cardboard box and then punch him, or see Psycho Mantis floating above a TV and then punch him.
You're kind of giving everybody a little, like, it's not quite a diorama, but kind of,
Yeah.
Like each bot is just hanging out on your hub map until you get their thing out of the gacha, and then it turns into a little like interactive scene.
Yeah, which is fun. And then in the hub world, the mechanism they have for exploring more of the hub world is, and the kind of the gatekeeping they have is, you need a certain amount of bots to progress, because they will team up and help you get to another area or unlock something else there.
My girlfriend loves like everything about this game, but it's the part where you hit the button and all the bots run over and start helping you is definitely her favorite so far.
Yeah, that's a delight.
And because all the bots, even if it's Solid Snake bot or Ratchet bot, join in the fun. And then the puzzle pieces will unlock new kind of areas, almost like the playroom areas. It seems like that's how you unlock the gacha machine and the rest of the stuff as you get puzzle pieces. But I've only done the gacha machine fully yet.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you guys had unlocked the next puzzle thing yet, because I'll give him credit. The gacha thing only dispenses items for bots you've already found. So you can't sit there wasting money on a bunch of stuff you won't be able to use for several hours.
Mm-hmm.
I did run out of coins before I ran out of gacha though. So it's 100 coins a bubble there, a capsule. So that's pretty hefty. Gameplay wise,
it's a platformer.
I haven't hit it.
Yeah, I
haven't hit anything too difficult.
It's a good one.
It's not super hard. We talked about it when we played those demos over the last few weeks. So, like, it very much plays like Playroom. It's all the exact same, like charge to spin.
Yeah,
like hit jump in midair to kind of shoot beams out of your feet.
You get. I think we mentioned this also. Certain levels have power-ups or special abilities that you get for that level, like a jetpack or
there's a dog that is a jetpack that rides on your back.
Hands.
Yeah, there's the frog hands, which I think is my favorite one.
Yeah, the kind of spring-loaded box, like Looney Tunes boxing gloves. I guess they reuse those multiple times then, because I saw those at Summer Game Fest, and I was like, oh man, are they doing the Mario thing of every single level's got its own unique mechanic? But it seems like I've even seen those repeat a couple times just in the first world.
Yeah, I think it's just a handful of abilities.
Yeah, or at least so from what I've seen, again, I've only made it through the first galaxy, and then you kind of culminate in a boss in a boss fight, and it's
that first one's pretty good.
Yeah, using different abilities in the boss fight. I fought the big ape.
Again, not super hard, but there's a few things that kind of make you react and think about which ability to use.
Well, there's also a couple of bits
as hell.
There's a couple of bits where you also just need to be locked in. Like you need to do a bunch of things in sequence because it will start you over from the beginning if you die or don't do it right. There's a boss fight in the next galaxy that comes up pretty quickly. That's like, I think, a bonus one. That's like a giant robot pirate skeleton. And that's more of a platforming challenge than it is like a straight up like boss fight, because you have to climb up the dude and not die while you're doing it.
That sounds cool. I know I guess you guys haven't seen this yet either. I certainly haven't unlocked these, but definitely played some super hard challenge levels at that event.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some like explicitly very hard stuff buried in this game.
Yeah, and on the boss fights, I think they do. On the official boss fights, I think they do give you 3 hearts to kind of take the edge off of some of those a bit, so you can take a few hits. But on these mini boss fights, it's one hit and you start over.
Yeah.
I fought somebody on the Ape Escape level. Alex, do you know who the end boss on that Ape Escape level is? Who is
that's one of the main. I think that is like the main antagonist of the Ape Escape games. I forget the name. It's like Spark or something. It's something. It starts with an S, I think.
Yeah. It's like Scepter or something.
Yeah, Spectre, maybe.
Spectre, yeah.
That is a main bad guy in, like, that's the one that keeps turning the apes against your helpful humans and scientists. He's the super smart ape.
My kids were watching me and they kept asking, like, who's this? And once in a while I was just like, yeah, well, look, I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Does the cat have a name? The cat, like the cat costume with
God, that's killing me. That's the one I haven't been able to name so far, and I don't.
It's not the one with the guitar, because that's Jammy Whammy.
No.
That's not from Doko Demo Isho, is it? It totally is. I just googled that. That's exactly what it is.
All right.
I don't think that ever came out here.
There's stuff that I'm like, I just say like, look, I think this is some Sony Japan stuff, and I just don't know.
But here's the thing. So we talked about it, so I'm going to say it right now. I have one bone to pick. It is not really even a bone to pick with the game itself. The game, I think, is very good. But they wrote a check, and now it is time for their asses to cash it. You made an entire level that is Ape Escape. Make a fucking new Ape Escape, for God's sakes. What are you doing?
Yeah, we should. I don't think we actually said, like, you straight up played, or did you say you full on play Ape Escape? Like,
yeah, you play Ape Escape in that level, straight up.
You turn into the character. Does the Ape Escape kid have a name?
I don't remember it if there is one.
But you literally like put on the Ape Escape kid costume and get a net and full on have like a radar.
Yeah.
And are like actually searching out the apes and netting them, like it turns into like a very light version of Ape Escape for one level.
Yeah.
Okay. Alex, I know you and your partner are some of the biggest Ape Escape fans I've ever met. So yes. I will not begrudge you your want for Ape Escape.
I wrote in my Game of the Year write-up of the last Astro Bot game, I said if any studio is perfectly poised to make a new Ape Escape game, it is Team Asobi. And now they have demonstrated that, yes, they do in fact have the chops to do this. Sony, take whatever fucking shackles you have on them off. Let them make the ape escape of our dreams.
Well, hey, it looks like there's going to be a lot of budgetary changes in the future as live service is de-emphasized. Maybe they'll start shunting some money back that direction. That ape escape level is probably the most excited I've gotten playing this so far. Like it's been great so far, but it's been like kind of predictably great. You know, like it's very much you kind of know what you're getting with this. But seeing that level was like, oh shit. Like, I wonder how many of these are they going to do? How many other classic PlayStation games are they going to kind of recreate in the mechanics of this game? Like, that could be super cool if you actually play Parappa at some point or something like that.
When I unlocked Parappa, I was a little mad there wasn't a rhythm game.
Yeah, but I don't know how. I mean, it seems like maybe it'll be like one per galaxy because they do the Ape Escape in the first galaxy. Maybe you get like one of those themed levels per or something. So maybe there's some more waiting.
But I have to imagine those revolve around characters that you are unlocking in that specific galaxy, because you unlock some of the Ape Escape stuff before you unlock the planet.
Yeah, I mean, there's I think it's 300 bots, right, in total.
Something I think
that's right.
Mascot bots.
I don't know. Yeah, I think that's total because that's also generic.
I don't know if it is. I don't know if the generic bots come up in that count. I think that might be. That might be those. I don't know what they call the delineation there, but I think they are. I don't think they're actually called mascot bots. I think they're called special bots, because those are the only ones that show up on that grid when you pop that grid. But maybe that was maybe that was like 150 or something like that. So maybe there are more than I expected though. And I want to say when we were at the demo, they said that there might have even been a couple of bots that made their way back into Astro's Playroom.
So, yeah, this is multifaceted here. I booted up Astro's Playroom again after I started playing this game. I had forgotten they patched new content into that game like a month ago. Did we talk about that on here?
I don't think so.
I don't know if we mentioned it. I couldn't remember if that was like a hush hush or something.
I actually didn't know about that.
Yeah.
No, they just patched it in. Like they put out a PlayStation blog about it or whatever.
Okay.
I can't remember why I was out of town or I was not available when that happened, but so I forgot to go back and check it out until afterwards. But like when you boot that game back up, it full on is like, hey, there's like a new bot to go rescue in each world, and then when you go in the labo, there's like 8 new slots for hardware to unlock that were not there before.
It's a beautiful thing.
So that's like the one mild letdown of this game, but I wasn't expecting it to make good on this, is that there isn't quite... I mean, like, you do have a hub, but it's not quite as potent as the Labo was from Playroom.
Well, I think I'm holding judgment until I unlock more of those puzzles.
Yeah, like, there could be more in here, but at the same time, like, that's a trick you can only pull once, you know? Like, Playroom did it already. Like, they're just the kind of, like, immaculate, like, fully detailed PlayStation library of hardware, you know? Like, you can't just do that again. So I don't know what I was expecting in that vein, but like that particular feature was just so laser targeted at me that I'm a little sad there's not something of that caliber here again. But instead they've doubled down on the bots, right? Like unlocking the bots and then unlocking their little scenes is what they have gone hard on as far as the like collectibles and like your kind of the thing you're curating.
I think the console fetishism thing made a lot more sense in the last game.
Yeah,
I think here they're doing enough with the idolatry of the PlayStation 5 and its various associated accessories that that's enough for me. I'm actually much more interested in how many weird bots can you throw at me.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people will be. Like, that's what I mean. Like only obsessive weirdos like me want to be able to like zoom in on every like model number and eject button. But yeah, like this is just a different type of celebration of PlayStation history.
Yeah.
And, you know, look, I don't have as much Sony nostalgia. Like I've mentioned a bunch of times, I did not get into PlayStation stuff until late in the PlayStation 2 and then mostly PlayStation 3 when I was kind of had enough money to get out there and purchase systems and whatnot. So I kind of missed PlayStation 1 and most of PlayStation 2, if not missed, then was kind of just adjacent to it, renting or playing at friends. But the thing that I will say about this game that I do miss from the kind of hardware fetishism and porn that was in the first one was your ship is a pretty nicely rendered PlayStation 5 that's been stripped down from some of its armor, let's say, some of its shell, but it's not the actual innards of a PlayStation 5. It's like the cartoon innards of a PlayStation 5 where you're building these kind of modules, like a memory module that is like a goofy representation of a memory. And I think I just wanted the actual physical hardware that's inside of just show me, hey, go get a case fan, go get some more extra memory for this thing. There are basically just like 4 gigantic squares you need to go assemble, and it's like you did the memory module, and you do slot in like little RAM into a memory thing, but if I pop open my PS5, I'm pretty sure that's not what. I'm pretty sure there are no eyeballs on my RAM. I'm pretty sure. I don't know I have not gone that deep into it. I think there's some kind of shielding before you get that far. So that's my only thing is like, no, I kind of do want to just see the inside of a PlayStation 5, kind of like it was in Astro's Playroom where it's rendered 1-to-1. But in terms of the platforming, very tight, very good.
Yeah, feels great.
Feels fantastic, but feels on par with where Astro has been in the past. So
yeah,
if that's not your cup of tea, it's not a radical departure. You're not.
Yeah. They took Playroom and turned it into a game that is worth $60.
Yeah.
Seems like it so far. Again, I've only done the first Galaxy to completion, but it was hard to put down and pick up something else. I would have just kept going with it, and my kids loved it, and they want to keep going with it too. So it's a family-friendly game there. Yeah, winner.
Looks very good also.
Daughter loves the little foxes on the hub world. The little fennec foxes. I don't know. That's what she was calling them.
Yeah. I think all the bot designs, including the little robot animals running around, like all that stuff is great.
Tons of not since the first Sonic the Hedgehog have little robot animals been so charming.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just it's a fun thing to jump into a new world, figure out what its mechanics are, poke around the edges, and the presentation is really just hard to beat.
Yes. Like probably most TVs that sell off the shelf are 4K HDR these days, but the HDR really pops in this game at times.
A lot of good things to say about it.
I hope it maintains through. I guess that's like the one danger is like maybe some of the mechanics start repeating too much, or maybe they run out of ideas before the end or something, but hopefully not.
I mean, on the plus side, it does not seem excruciatingly long. Like the number of universes and the number of things, like it seems like that's probably a 20-hour game at most.
Yeah, if they do the thing that I suspect a lot of platformers take their cues from this model is you do your base stuff and then you do harder versions of the base stuff later, right? And so you get your repetition, but it's more challenging. So we'll see if it winds up being that. So far, though, really enjoying my time through it.
Hell yeah.
Let's take a little break here. We'll come back to another game that we've gotten some hands-on with, which I'm curious to see what the sentiment is with Star Wars Outlaws, which we'll talk about when we come right back. Stick around. All right, we are back, and it is time to talk about some Star Wars Outlaws. That's one that's going to trip up my Long Island mouth. Star Wars Outlaws.
That came out.
Star Wars Outlaws came out, let's just call for all intents and purposes, around a week ago, officially.
How much money you got?
Right, yeah.
Do you have $110? Then it came out like a week and a half ago.
Okay.
Actually, hang on real quick. Did you see the shit with I think it was just the PS5 version, the saves getting corrupted?
No.
I think it was mandatory. Like they they hotfixed some stuff like 3 days after the early access version came out.
Okay.
And if I read their message correctly, like it was a mandatory save corruption. Like they quite literally said, hey, after this patch, you'll have to start over.
That's really a shame.
And a lot of people who had paid like the $110 or whatever it was to play early and then lost all their progress were not happy.
Look, those are the people who love the game that much.
That's right. You just got to show your loyalty.
Okay. Look, I think you and I, Brad. So, Alex, you have not touched this yet, right?
No, I've not had a chance yet.
Okay. So I think you and I, Brad, are probably right in the genre or right in the group of people that are like, we are open to a good Star Wars game. Give us
not even open. I was like ready when this was coming out. I was like, man, I am ready for a good open world Star Wars game.
Yes,
give it to me.
Like the universe, like poking around the universe of Star Wars. Give me the grit. This seemed like it's going into the gritty stuff of Star Wars, which before I get into launching into some of my initial problems with it, I do think it does a pretty good job of like, I don't know, this feels like a livable Star Wars universe.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, it kind of... This is like such a meta nitpick, it's barely worth bringing up. Like, it kind of does the same thing that almost all Star Wars material not made by George Lucas does, which is that it kind of like cargo cults the Star Wars trilogy a lot, It's like Like the ultimate manifestation of this was the Old Republic, where every class in the Old Republic is a character from Star Wars, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, you're not playing a bounty hunter, you're playing Boba Fett. Come on, man.
Right.
You're not playing a smuggler, you're playing Han Solo. You know, it's like everything in the universe flows from the like 6 or 8 characters, you know, that everybody loves.
Yeah.
And so like this is sort of a Han Solo game in that respect. But that's fine. Like that's you know, it is what it is these days.
It's okay, and you know, I think the environments, the little towns, they feel more fleshed out than some of the other games have, and even the more recent Star Wars games, where a lot of Star Wars games take place on either you're on a desolated Tatooine-esque place where it's very spread out and there's 1 or 2 bars and you're working for people that are dirt farmers, or you're in like an Imperial base where it is just clean aesthetically and there's just jackbooted thugs marching around the entire time. This feels somewhere in the middle where it's denser. It's got almost like a cyberpunkish feel sometimes, where you're just running around, there's merchants all over the place just hawking wares and that kind of vibe, and that feels okay to me. My biggest complaint so far that is, I think, stopping me or feels like I'm walking through mud sometimes is some of the technical stuff in here. The game just doesn't feel responsive when I'm doing stuff. It feels muddy. The
game is just jank, like extremely jank. Like I'm trying to think, like, what's the worst offender? Probably the stealth takedowns are the worst for me.
Where you hit a button and it seems like it does it like 3 seconds later.
That's like sometimes, yes, it'll wait to activate the stealth kill, and then you'll maybe like kind of like magnetize toward, like the characters will sort of slide together a little bit, and like if another character sees what's going on, they might activate or might not.
For me, probably even worse than that is anything that has to deal with sending out your little buddy Nix always feels like it's hit and miss in terms of, like, you've got to get that character out in front for a distraction early enough that other guards will just walk right by him. Or sometimes I feel like I'm double clicking to do a distract. Sometimes I'm single clicking to do one. Sometimes it'll snap and accidentally attack the guy when I'm doing to just distract them. That feels a little wonky. I've had the game crash once, full on crash. One time I died because I got caught between rocks and they just killed the character. They're just like, wow. You're just dead. You're stuck here. You're not moving. But there's stuff there I want. It's like there, but it feels, and the controls just feel kind of muddy. They just feel like, and I've tried it on performance. I've tried it on quality. I even tried it on, 40 frames per second. Yeah. The 40 hertz mode is appreciated. It's not bad. My TV just goofs up the HDR when I switch it to that, so I took it off of it. I'm playing on performance now, but yeah, the controls just don't feel super great. It's just sluggish. It's a lot about it is just sluggish in a weird way. That, like, even the shooting, I feel like, and then granted there are a bajillion upgrades in this game. Like, it's a full on, like, this game is basically just Assassin's Creed plus Far Cry in design from what I've seen so far. So there are a bajillion upgrades on the blaster along with every other thing you have. So maybe, and in fact, I think the first upgrade, which I'm still missing like one transparasteel, I think is an accuracy upgrade. Oh, I haven't gotten that yet. But even the blaster feels just kind of wonky and not super responsive or precise when you first start using it. I don't mind the blasting as much. The stealthing, I have been very frustrated, and for a stealth game that seems to want to rely pretty heavily on stealth, it's pretty unforgiving. Yeah, it's it's got it. Oh, sorry. Well, there's just like, it is straight up Splinter Cell. Damn it, Fisher, we're pulling you out if you get caught when you're in zones that are like, do not get caught, and it's like, fuck, I just didn't see this guy, or I turned a corner and the thing went down right away. I couldn't get my distract off, and you're just. I think that mandatory stealth sequence a couple hours into the game, I think that was just a misstep, because I've seen so many people complain about mandatory stealth in this game, and I also did not have a great time with that sequence, and I feel like they just should not have put that where they did. It comes up a couple of other times, though. I mean, there are just mandatory stealth parts where you're don't get caught, and then there are, for some reason, you get past those and it's like, okay, we're still in a hostile territory, but we can go loud, right? And then it's like, okay, now you can shoot guys if they're hitting the alarm, or you can be in combat. That's the part I meant, like the where you're infiltrating the Pike base on the second planet at the beginning, like that's the mandatory stuff, and then yes, out of nowhere it's like, okay, now we can shoot people. Like, why? What changed? So I did that mandatory thing. I did the Pike thing, and this game has some choices in it. And then later on, they're like, okay, look, you got your faction rep up with the Pike, which is what I did, which is what I chose to do.
Oh, interesting. I chose the other faction.
The Crimson Dawn.
Yeah.
And so then my next mission was like, okay, you need to steal something from either the Pike or the Crimson Dawn, and you could walk into the Pike and steal it because you're okay with them, or you can steal it from the Crimson Dawn. I was like, I'm going to go steal it from the Crimson Dawn, which put me right back into another mandatory stealth thing.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So I'm I haven't done that one yet. First of all, I think they take way too long letting you get into the open world. So the second I was done with that stuff and made that choice, I was like, fuck y'all, I'm going out. I'm just going to ride the speeder.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. This is the thing I wrote. This is my biggest grief. You go out there. I don't know if you found it, like the wind tunnel cave, where you're like, my God, that was the thing you just auto die on? Well, you just go up to it and you can't enter it. And it's just it's just blowing you out. It's just wind is blowing out.
That was the literal last thing I did this morning before I turned it off and came in here to do this podcast. Except the game just like freaked out and I died and respawned again right in front of it. And I was just like, what the fuck just happened? Like, what is with this game?
This is the thing I hate about open world games. And I understand if you're like, want to do less hand holding or just discover it on your own, but I did the same exact thing as you. As soon as they took the shackles off, I was like, got on my speeder bike, went out into the world. I'm like, I'm gonna go explore this world. Ran up against at least two things where I was like, can I just not do this yet? And then I looked it up and it's like, no, you should just do this, keep going with the story until you get the upgrade to do this thing. And I was like, that happened to me once and I kept going. That happened to me again. And I was like, well then, okay, forget it. I'm just going to do the story stuff.
That's rotten because I've gotten enough kind of breadcrumb trails out into the world. It's not like I broke sequence to go out and just like, fuck this, I just want to look at the world. Like I got that hut mission that sends you clear across the map. And then along the way, I found, did you meet the kid that sells you the intel
behind the waterfall?
No, about the tunnel. Or I think it's a different
the wind tunnel.
Actually.
That's the wind tunnel.
I think it might be a different tunnel. Actually, I think there might be more than one tunnel.
Okay.
But the point is, though, the game is leading me into the world. Like the game is giving me reasons, incentivizing, like putting objective markers out there. And then I ran into that. But like I also ran into like I don't know how many ambient events you've done where like I did one that was just like, oh, the Empire's going to reclaim some stolen shit. Mm-hmm. And I went to the thing and it was their shuttle was landing and they got in a firefight with the pirates and they killed all the pirates and then I killed all of them. Yeah. And took all their stuff and then it was like, event completed. So like there's some like okay stuff like that out in the world to do.
So the I've kind of just blown past some of those on my way now that I realize like, well, I'm not going to explore this world until I feel like I'm geared up enough to explore world, because when I got to that wind tunnel, and again, this could just be a personal me thing, or this could drive everybody bananas. I couldn't get in there. I wound up looking it up to be like, all right, I have a sneaking suspicion I would know what to do here, but basically it's, do I need a boost on my speeder bike to break the wind? Because I don't have a boost, but I saw it in the upgrade tree for the stuff. And I looked it up, it's like, sure enough, you do. You cannot go break past that wind part without the thing. I was like, okay, fine, I'll do this again later. All you needed to do was have the character say like, I should come back here later, right?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yep.
I bet I can get through this with a speeder bike.
Or like, I feel like or have the character say something in world or in Cox that says, I might have to come back here later. Okay. Sin number 1. Sin number 2, it removed the goddamn marker from my map. It removed that wind cave objective marker.
Oh, no. You can't do that.
I had to add an annotation on the map for myself to be like, okay, I should come back here because
where did you get the marker from? Was it from I met a little Rhodian that I had to pay 10 credits to tell me about it.
Too.
Wow, that's wild.
And that's pay 10 credits and they're like, all the tourists go here. Everybody from off-world loves the wind caves or whatever. And then gave me a marker and then it gave me a search area. And then when I found the entrance, it removed that from my map. And then it wasn't ridiculous. There anymore. And so I was like, well, when I get my upgrade, I'm going to completely forget about this thing. You can't do that.
No. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe it's just something going on. So I just added a little Breath of the Wild marker annotation on the map to come back there. But then I got to another spot where I was like, how the hell do I expect you to find this thing? And again, I was like, I'm going to look. You know, you get acquainted. It's like dating a game. You have to learn the stealth mechanics. You're like, what are people going to see me, or how long are they going to take to react?
You got to learn its quirks. You got to learn how not to make it mad.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, are they going to send me into the world and not say if I needed an upgrade thing? And I found another thing that was like, no, you should come back here. You can't even do this quest until you finish this story quest. And I was like, okay, well, that's annoying. All right. But the most frustrating things stick with me the most, and those were very frustrating. The stealth sequences I'm getting frustrated with, but I do want to keep playing this game. I do find...
So do I, yeah.
I do find the universe to be fairly engaging in terms of walking around, having a blaster at my side. I think the what do they call data spike? It's not slicing. Slicing is like Wordle. The data spike thing is like a rhythm game, which is like very short rhythm game, but is fun enough where you're like,
it's satisfying.
Yeah. The slicing is like Wordle, where it's like you've got one letter in the right spot, but two are in the wrong spot, and then you kind of do that, which is also a fun little mini game. The stuff with Nyx feels clunky right now.
Interesting. That's like the one thing I have not had a lot of. Well, sometimes I've activated it when I didn't want to, but I've never had it like break on me.
So you're able to use the distraction just fine, and
yeah.
Okay. I find it takes, by the time I want to distract, I usually am putting Nyx. I've learned to put Nyx like 3 feet in front of the people and just run, because he takes a little while to get out there. And if he's too far away to distract. But what winds up happening for me often when I need to distract guards is usually a pair of 2 walking towards me. We'll send Nyx out there and one will peel off, and then the other guard comes right towards me.
I've never even tried that, because they love to pair guards just walking shoulder to shoulder. I just figured the distraction would distract both of them, and that would be useless. That's hilariously video game contrived for only one of them to notice.
It seems like one will go, but I've had, look, sometimes these guys are pretty smart. I'll hide behind a pillar and one of them will go one way and the other one will go the other way and surround me. And again, in those forced stealth missions, you got caught, that's it. You know, your hands go up, that's it. You get an ability called a fast talker
fast
something,
talk.
but that doesn't work in forced stealth. Like, I think, and I'm right now I'm in a forced stealth mission. I think that's for when you can go loud and shoot when your hands are up.
I believe that's right. Are you in the Crimson Dawn territory? Yeah. Is that where you're? Okay, so like I said, I'm just going to waltz into their base because I'm good with them now and just take the thing and not worry about that shit. I looked it up out of curiosity. You can extremely game the reputation system in this.
Oh, you can?
Like apparently you can get to excellent reputation with every faction at once.
Oh, that's great.
Although there are some interesting little quirks. Like I stole, I won't go through the whole plot line, but like you meet one crime boss. He wants nothing to do with you because he thinks you're a scrub.
Yeah.
Then you take a job for somebody else. In the course of doing that job, you learn that there's a plot against the first boss who blew you off. And I had stolen his ring.
Yeah.
And I love when games do this. Like it does a good job of like the junk in your inventory is just like, this is safe to sell. This is just junk. On that ring, it was like, you can sell this for money, but it might have a use later. And so after I sided with the Crimson Dawn, that message went away. And now it just says that ring is safe to sell. So it's like, extremely mechanically obvious that I was going to use that ring to help like buy his favor.
Oh, well, I went the other way, but I didn't use the ring yet.
Well, that might be for later.
Maybe it's later,
But I went back and checked an old save to confirm because I was like, did that do what I thought it did? And sure enough, when I sided against his faction, the item lost that note of like, hey, you might be able to use this for something later. So
I agree with you that it does a good job of saying this is pure junk. Just sell this shit. But it mixes it in with when you go to a vendor, it seems like it mixes it in with stuff like that ring that's like, you could sell this if you want, but it could be used later, and your mats, so that when you go to sell all junk, I have not hit that button yet because I'm afraid it's going to sell the ring.
Yeah, I had the same fear, but I made a hard save and tested it, and it didn't even after that ring became not useful story-wise.
It did not sell?
It still did not auto-sell that ring, just everything that was explicitly junk.
Oh, great. Okay, that's great to know. And it does not sell anything, because it doesn't break them out into categories, just lists them all in one big list.
It's the menus. There are a lot of menus in this. Like this game is like next level on nested upgrades, like upgrades that exist inside other upgrades and are attached to different things. Like that whole, are they called experts? Is that like the bartender is your first expert? I think is the term they use.
Basically your ability tree.
Yeah, so like, and I think there are 9 on the menu. Is that right? But I still only got the first one.
So yeah, right. They're like mentors or experts or something like that. Yeah.
So like you're going to meet all these characters and they've got a bunch of abilities attached to them, and some of them are combat related and some of them are not. And they all have like nested requirements and different mat requirements. You also upgrade your ship and your speeder and your blaster and your armor.
Yeah.
I think there's some other stuff.
Are there Nyx upgrades?
I don't think so.
Did you do the ridiculous and long food minigame?
No.
Oh my gosh. It goes on forever for reasons I have never played a game where I was sitting there and I just looked at my daughter and I was like, I don't know what's happening right now. It is so long, but it's like you're just like push right on the stick for her to put a fork of food in her mouth. Okay.
Aw.
Now push left on the left stick for Nyx to eat a little thing. It's got hints of like a Monster World cooking thing. Or Monster Hunter cooking thing, like where they're gonna be like, look how awesome this is, and this weird food thing.
But it's not awesome.
But then this mini game just goes on kind of forever, where you're like, this is really long.
Does it get you anything?
So it got me a food treasure. I thought it reminded me of the Nyx upgrades, because I was like, oh, this is probably gonna get me an upgrade for Nyx, because Nyx is eating this thing. But then it got me a food treasure, which I'm not sure what it did. I don't know. It might just be, I spent 200 credits on it. It was like kind of an expensive thing. But yeah, I feel like all the place settings are there, the trappings are there, and then you ask somebody to pass you the salt and like, pepper comes out. And you're
or the lid came off the shaker and it just dumped all over.
Yeah. And it's like, man, this looked like it was going to be awesome. Now there's like pepper all over my food.
It's weird. I don't think there's any one aspect of this game that's done extremely well, but I still want to keep playing it. Like there's no one thing I can point to in this and say like, okay, this is the thing that's keeping me here.
Yeah.
I guess it's the Star Wars-ness of the whole thing.
Are you playing on PS5?
Yeah, I'm on PS5.
Okay.
No, let me ask one question. As someone who is very susceptible to this particular brand of Ubisoft open world third-person game, is it doing enough of the things that are just the general Ubisoft machinery that are fun enough? Or is the broken stuff really getting in the way of even that?
I need to spend more time in the world just doing the side events and like taking over bases and stuff to say like it's
Because here's the thing, I'm not above slop, especially when it comes to open world games. I will fucking like just body up to that trough and I will shove my face in there if it's good enough. But that's the thing, is I can't get a consistent answer from anybody on whether they think it's actually good enough or if it's just hitting those notes occasionally, but then the bad stuff is just getting in the way.
I don't know. And again, I mean, this may change. I don't know that it is good enough if you don't have like a deep love of Star Wars or really want to like live in a Star Wars world for a long time. Like I actually thought about you in particular coming into this podcast and what I was going to say about this game. Like, if you want a Ubisoft open world game, you might be better served waiting for Shadows.
Yeah.
Unless you really want to play a Star Wars open world game.
Because I do like Star Wars is the thing, but I don't have a deep love of Star Wars. So, like, I could put up with it in a totally solid middle of the road game, but if it's actively working against me, I can see that immediately, like, making me bounce off.
Brad, you kind of hinted at this, and this is kind of where I'm falling right now, is I think maybe the beginnings of this game are pushing back against the player too much. And,
for sure.
And this could be a thing where, like, look, once you're past like the 5-hour mark, then everything kind of makes sense and you're hitting stride. But it takes a very long time for you to be able to do anything really fun. There's like a kind of an opening, what feels like maybe too extended setup for your whole character and getting off world and the whole thing. I mean, Brad, did you even get all the ship parts yet?
No, I got fuel injectors. Are there more?
Yeah. There's
more. Like I said, as soon as I got the fuel injectors and made that faction choice, I just bailed on the story and just started tooling around doing stuff.
Yeah,
like that's the whole thing. It's confusing. Yes, the intro is too long. It takes way too long to just get your freedom and go do whatever. But it's very confusing because you leave the first planet, you get to the second planet, they put you on your speeder bike, and you're in the open world, and I'm like, cool, can I just go roam now?
Yeah. And
you kind of can't, because anytime you go off the path at that point, the pikes just come along and start murdering you.
Is that right? That didn't happen to me.
Yeah, because I tried to just roam around. As soon as you crash your ship and get on your speeder and just go, I tried to just go, I was like, I want to go look around this map before I go to the city you sent me to. And they were chasing me everywhere. and just mowing me down to the point that I was like, fine, I guess I'll just go to the city. So it's like there's like a bait and switch where you think you've hit the open world, and then you go spend another like 2 hours almost in that city doing enclosed, like the forced self stuff, which is not amazing. And the story is not bad. It's just like there's just not enough there for me yet. Like I feel like they could have developed like Kay and her relationship with that bartender at the beginning a little more. Like I don't feel
for the amount of time they spend there.
Yes, I don't feel like I know who the characters are super well yet, and like now that seems to be giving way for more of the faction struggle stuff. Because I've already, now you meet like the Pikes, the Crimson Dawn, and the Hutts all in the space of like 30 minutes.
Yes. And basically the setup is you're a low-level wannabe smuggler / thief / Han Solo who just wants to get off this world. Seems like you've got nobody left on your side. Even this, like Brad mentioned, the guy that runs the bar who is kind of housing you is like, time to go. So you spend a lot of the early game just kind of getting off world, and then you crash land on a new planet, and in order to get your ship up and running, you enter the criminal underworld. That's kind of the setup there. Hey, I still just want to get my ship up and running and get out of here, but just so happens the planet you landed on has like, was it 3 factions basically? Crimson Dawn, Hutts, Pikes.
Yeah.
And then there's like a super faction, which I assume will come into play later on. It's in the open cutscene.
The Empire, I think, is also a faction.
Oh,
they show up in the lore screen under factions, so I think maybe at some point you work for them. I don't know.
And now it just seems like that's the kind of setup for the mechanics of the game. Like Brad mentioned, you're kind of doing faction missions, and they explicitly say, look, by doing some missions, you're going to make some people happy and some people pissed off. It is funny that you can get 100% with everybody, because that's exactly how I would try and do it.
Apparently, you just like unlock repeatable missions at some point where you can just grind out the rep of everybody. If you want. And like that might actually, I think that's what it is. It's like, it's the Star Warsiness, but B, it's just the fucking upgrade loop.
Yeah.
The numbers go up, the cascade of like, oh, I got enough transparent steel for that upgrade. Now I've got this 2 others to pursue, and I'm working on my challenges for these expert abilities at the same time. And like, I'm roaming around doing these ambient events to get more stuff, and I'm just getting more stuff to get more stuff.
This is the
fuck
slop.
me.
Yeah, there's crafting, and then there's also like cosmetic crafting. I don't know if you got the next ability that's like what is the other one when you talk to enough merchants, like I know a guy or something?
Yes, I'm working on I know a guy right now, because you got to spend 1,000. You got to meet 6 merchants and then spend 1,000.
And then it was like I got that finally, and I was like, cool. I spent 1,000. I just burned through some cash, and I think I had in my mind, I read the text, but in my mind it was like, this will get me special missions for cool upgrade materials or a discount in the store. What it got me was special missions to craft like a flower headband for Nyx. And I was like, I don't, or a bandana for Nyx. And I was like, that's not where I'm going to spend my valuable crafting time.
Maybe I'll stop pursuing that one.
I mean, it's going to happen organically.
Yeah, I'll get there eventually.
You just wind up buying enough stuff. But yeah, I think this feels to me like, again, all the stuff is on the table, but the main course is yet to come. And I feel like after I get some upgrades, after I feel like I've got enough stuff to roam around a planet and feel not afraid to engage with, that's what it did. That's what when you go out into the open world and you feel like you are now afraid to engage with something because it might come off your map or you can't do it. That's a terrible feeling, right?
That's
like you want to feel like you want to go out there and either be afraid because it's a challenging thing, like an Elden Ring, where you're like, oh, I shouldn't have gone there. But you never want to feel like, I'm confused. Like, I'm just confused as to what should be happening here.
Yeah.
And again, like, one little bit of dialogue of like, I should come back later would just kind of clear some of that up.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the game as designed is totally fine. Like, there's nothing bad about the way they spec'd this out and intended to put it together. It's just, I think it's all in the execution that it seems to be stumbling. Like a really tight, like responsive, smooth, like performant version of this game would be, I'd be in here going like, oh, this is a pretty good game. Like I'm having fun with this and it's fun to play. But like, again, it feels like it's kind of fighting you on the play part.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. It feels like a patchable problem or a kind of, nudgeable problem rather than a whole redesign problem.
Yeah, my guess though is I don't know if they put the work in to like tighten up animation problems and control problems and stuff like that at this point.
Yeah, I sometimes I couldn't tell if it's performance on the PS5 or what for the muddy controls. Like it did feel I had started on quality. That's usually where I'll play my games, but I switched over to performance because it just I was hoping that would make it tighten up a bit.
Yeah, I think it's much more a
animation priority,
like animation problem, like just actions triggering too late. Things not happening exactly when it seems like they should, like the character pausing for a second before you go into a stealth takedown, or like the grappling hook I found to be a little stuttery.
Yeah,
like when you kind of take the step forward to start swinging and the swinging feels unnatural.
Yes,
like it's a lot of control and animation stuff to me.
So there's some Uncharted in there too, with the platforming and the swinging and the.
It's kind of been a while since I've seen that style of climbing. I feel like
she just climbs. If the wall is textured correctly, she'll just climb it.
Yes, that was another moment when I was like, "What is this game? What is it asking me to do or not?" Because yes, there's a point where and the checkpoints are sometimes not right next to each other. So I was like, "You're not giving me a prompt to climb that surface. You've never told me I can climb that texture."
Yeah.
But if I jump and it can't climb it, I'm going to have to go back like 10 minutes.
So, was this in an elevator shaft?
Yes.
Yes. I had that same problem of like, I'm all right, let's just go. This seems like what you want me to do.
Right. Like at a point I was just like, all right, I'm just going to go for it because and then sure enough, like here she is just climbing a sheer wall with her bare hands. Because the
just like all the Star Wars people do.
Right. Just because the texture map looked a little bit rougher.
Yeah. That happens outside too with like cliff faces where you're like, this is not like the jagged edge of a cliff. This is just you are Spider-Maning your way up this cliff face, which is it's not a problem. It's just funny.
Maybe painting everything yellow served a purpose after all.
But yeah, I like it. It's definitely one of those third-person action games that I'm going to keep up with. It's not doing anything openly offensive to me that I would put it down at this point. I'm just struggling a little bit with meeting it on its terms and what it wants from me, especially in some of these forced stealth sections where, again, playing next to my kids, I get to kind of use them as the audience surrogate sometimes. I just look over and be like, I don't think I've really learned what they want from me in terms of stealth yet. I'm just not sure exactly what they're asking of me here.
Figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I also feel strangely drawn to it for how half-baked a lot of it feels. I definitely will keep playing it for better or worse.
I don't know if I love the main character yet. Kay?
She's fine, but again, I just don't feel like there's a lot of character development there for her or anybody.
Just not sure what she's doing. She's kind of an asshole so far. Like,
I mean, she's supposed to be a rogue, right?
Yeah, she's supposed to be a rogue, but she doesn't feel lovable rogue yet. She kind of just look.
You got to earn that.
I've been robbing everybody left and right. If you've got an outpost, if you run a gas station on this planet, I'm gonna go
fucking smash and grab Vinny over here.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I paid that kid for his intel in the front and then went around the back and took all of their shit.
Totally. Nice. Like there's plenty of notes you read. One of these stash notes is like, hey, did you hide the stash where we can find it? Because we will die if this thing gets stolen. And immediately you're like, well, let me go find that stash.
Mm-hmm.
And like
because those NPCs have absolutely zero dialogue or animation or anything beyond that. They're just automatons. They're not like these are not real people that you can feel for.
But yeah, just Kay is just like mercenary, just like get out there.
I feel like that's like embodied best in like a lot of the side NPCs. Like this happens with a ton of open world games where you see the tiers of quality they put into main story characters, like quest givers, shopkeepers, people walking by. It's like everybody, every tier down the ladder has got a more rigid, unnatural face that animates less.
Yes.
And it's like even people you talk to in this game, like their eyes don't move. It's like they're still doing the circa 2001 era lack of facial animation of like as their faces move around, their eyes are just locked straight ahead. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a shocking lack of detail in like even speaking characters you meet in some cases.
Yeah. Like the bosses and the main ones, the mob bosses do seem fleshed out. And
they're fine. Yeah, the main characters look totally fine. Like it's not a bad looking game overall.
It's okay. I kind of wish maybe I was checking it out on a PC to see if I can boost it a little bit more.
Yeah, they went hard with ray tracing and stuff on PC. Apparently, it looks pretty fantastic there.
Like it's one of those games where when you're in the pre-rendered cutscene or if you're in the gameplay, even on performance, because there's a stark difference there. And also this is a thing that is not actually bothering me, but fast travel, I'm spoiled, especially on a PS5. I want near instantaneous fast travel. This has a not a very long, but it's got a load time when you go to fast travel.
5 to 10 seconds to load into the game.
Yeah. Or like even between, zones that are near each other, you're like, okay, all right, so that's how we're going to be. This isn't Spider-Man. I get it. Not everything can be. But yeah, it's, I kind of do want to see if they patch this one up or I assume it's selling well just because it's a Star Wars game.
You never know with sales figures these days because that stuff's not always reported, but I had seen some headlines that it maybe was not. Oh, that's right. Actually, Ubisoft, that's what I saw this morning. This story ran. Ubisoft shares are down significantly.
Huh.
How's it reviewing generally?
Like,
IGN,
okay.
mid 70 average, like not tragic, but also not great for
not lighting it up
for a license and project of this scope.
Sure, it's definitely
I'd say definitely disappointing scores relative to what people probably expected out of it.
Sure.
Ubisoft shares take a hit as analysts predict lower than expected Star Wars Outlaws sales is this IGN headline.
Okay. Again, I don't really right now this game is pretty in the middle for me. I'm hoping after I spend more time with it, it boosts it up as abilities and the fun factor kind of enters.
I have heard, I mean, this is just looking around the internet, I'm sure our experiences may differ, but I have heard like the story picks up toward the end, but that's toward the end, which like is not a big selling point, but it does apparently get more interesting at some point. And also similarly, I've seen people say like once you get a lot more abilities, it gets a little more interesting.
I think that's what's doing it for me right now is like even on the stealth parts, it's like there's just not that much I can do. I can sneak up behind a person and whack them in the head, or I can use Nyx to try and distract them. I don't have that much in my toolbox right now. I was going to say my Batman belt to do fun stuff. So
yeah. I mean, I'm like kind of ashamed to admit it, but it's the just getting out there, screwing around in an open world and upgrading a million things that's kind of keeping me going right now. Like I just want to take off those boxes.
Just need a boost for my my speeder. All right, that's Star Wars Outlaws, $70. That is on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and on the Epic Game Store, and I assume Ubisoft's whatever launcher they have. I was able to buy a nice hat for K from my UB points from whatever I had stored up. My 660 point hat. I always forget that thing that whole marketplace exists until I boot a game up.
Ubisoft Connect is what they call it now, right?
Well, I don't know. Was
Uplay for a long time.
Oh, right. Uplay, right.
For the longest time, but then they purged all your Uplay points.
I know. I had like 600.
Got to get this new currency. It's the first thing I look at anytime I start a Ubisoft game. I don't know why.
Oh, what's your currency?
Well, no, just that like pop out the interface for that game and see like what trinkets did they give me? What challenges do I need to fill here? I
this is a silly thing, but I usually don't immediately because it usually runs like dog crap on a PS5.
Yeah, it is very sluggish.
Whatever overlay they're doing in that whole thing always feels like it's going to break any second here.
It seems web based.
Yeah. Star Wars Outlaws, $70 across the board there. Moving on, Alex. Star Trucking. So from the Star Wars to the Star Trucking.
Yeah, I mean, like Star Wars was more about Star Trucking in the Star Wars universe. Maybe I'd be a little more excited about it.
It could be. Depends on the Star Wars game. Yeah,
it's not yet though, so we'll see where it goes. But yeah, Star Trucker. This is a game that I meant to play the demo of, but it expired before I got the chance to when it was during the Steam Next Fest stuff. But you know me, I love trucking. I like space.
You like space?
Seemed like a combo that would absolutely win me over, and I will say right now, it has not fully won me over yet. And I don't think it's because the game is bad necessarily at all. It is a simulation of you have a rig. It is a space rig, but it looks like a 16-wheel, fucking like truck. And you are hauling cargo from space station to space station, hitting your jumps, hitting the ports along the way, getting out of your truck to go fix, hull breaches and other things that happen as you are flying through space. And the thing I have realized, I think immediately, is that, one, it's a fairly finicky game. It kind of leans in on some stuff that is maybe not my strongest suit when it comes to actual truck simulator games, which is to say backing in and lining yourself up perfectly to hit things like docks and, pick up your cargo and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, is that like a pretty important part of the gameplay?
So far it is. I mean, It feels like it is because it's taken me what feels like probably a lot longer than it would take for most people.
Okay.
Vinny, you know how I am in space games, right?
I
You know how
I would
I
say
have
no as I thought about it.
Well, think about me when we were playing like that cooperative gravitational game where we were like flying around and I kept talking about like every time I think I want to go one way, my brain steers me in the other direction.
Sure. Heavenly Bodies was that game.
Right. I mean, that was going to be my question about this, or like Outer Wilds is the classic example of a game that plays with like somewhat realistic zero-G travel in a vacuum type stuff. Like, is this that at all, or does this just play like a truck?
No, it definitely is playing into the space stuff in a way, and I think that has been my biggest challenge so far, is that every time I think I'm backing up or going up or down or whatever, I literally had to invert the controls because the default up and down, which was reversed like a flight stick, was just breaking my brain in a way that was not working. And also backing into stuff it does require a certain amount of precision that my brain just does not like very much. It's
gotta wrap your head around that delta V.
That's right.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I've just never been able to lock in a way where I don't think the thing I want to do is the opposite.
I don't know. I definitely remember the Heavenly Bodies thing giving you trouble. And look, positioning in a 3D space is difficult. That is not an easy thing.
Especially when you're trying to back a trailer in.
But do you have full
yes, up and down, left and right.
You could be anywhere. You could translate your ship any way.
I have not tried to test the outer limits of how far they will let you go in space outside of the zones that they sort of drop you off in, like when you go from like hyperjump to hyperjump. But you do have movement in full, like kind of up and down 360 in that space.
I did not think this was going to be that kind of game. I thought it was going to be much more of they have locked you basically onto a plane and you're fake going through space. Okay, interesting.
I admire they went this direction. I think my challenges in that regard have more to do with me than they do the game. But there are a couple of things that I find a little bit less ideal and like make it a little tougher for me as someone that maybe just wants to cool out with a trucking game versus really micromanage it. I have a hard time playing that game in first-person mode where you're in the cockpit view because I found myself running into things I didn't even realize were there because they were just outside of my window view. And then there are two cameras on either side. There's two view screens on either side that you can cycle through different cameras, including what are essentially like your right and left rear view mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
And those are good, but you can't just see those by default. You do have to turn your head a little bit to see those. And when you do that, like you can see stuff, but if you're not doing that in the moment and like an asteroid or some other thing wrecks into you that you don't see is there, it can be a little frustrating because suddenly you have a bunch of hull breaches you didn't have and you don't even know why that happened.
On that point, were you able to get your eyeball tracking thing working?
I have not tried that at all.
Are you playing on PC?
I'm playing on PC. It's on Game Pass. I'm playing on PC Game Pass. Right now, it seems like the only things you can use are keyboard and regular game controllers. I don't know that you can use fancy driving wheels or HOTA sticks or whatever. It seems like a game where you would have to spend a lot of time testing how all those things would work in this, and I'm not sure that they have done that work yet.
Does Star Trucker support fly sticks or HOTAS? Not at launch, but it's our top priority to implement official support for these devices as soon as possible.
I think all that stuff would be worthwhile to do. I understand why it's not there at launch. My bigger issue, again, is some of that camera stuff and just trying to like pilot it from the cockpit view doesn't feel great right out of the box. Also, I think their soundtrack options are a little limited, and I really wish there was just an easy way I could either swap in my own music or like it did the American Truck Simulator thing of just give me regular internet radio. I don't care if it's out of time and space from where I normally would be. I want to listen to Radio Azerbaijan while I'm in space.
Sounds like you want a little more of your American Truck Simulator in space.
But just a little bit, because I don't want them to change the core game that they are making. They had a specific thing in mind, and I think I can adjust to that over time. There's just a couple little things about the flavoring of living that trucking lifestyle that I wish were a little bit better.
To me, following this, I'm more interested in the space sim stuff. I want that peripheral support. I want you to be able to use your racing wheel or your trucking wheel.
I don't know how we would do an up and down plane on a steering wheel, but I would love to figure that out.
I don't know either, but I would love to see you try.
I mean, my truck wheel does have a little up and down nubbin button that I probably could map to the up and down of the truck, but yeah, I don't know, man.
Do you wind up seeing any other trucks in the truck lanes?
There are other trucks out there. They'll honk at you which I don't know how you hear that because it's space, but I guess maybe it's over the radio channel. You get a honk or something. And there's dialogue between some, background people just talking, on the space CB radio. But by and large, I'd say look, I'm only like a couple hours into it, but so far it feels very much like this really is just about the lifestyle of you being in this truck and dealing with the rigors of space travel.
No multiplayer in their FAQ here. It is currently single player. I do not see anything about them adding multiple trucking. I love the concept. I love their aesthetic that they're going for.
They're going for a neat thing, and I think I can get there with it. It's just that out of the box, it's doing some things that don't jive well with my normal sensibilities around these kinds of games.
Also, you tell me, this looks like a pretty game. Like the graphics look pretty good on it.
I wouldn't say it's like a stunner, but it's nice. Like I'd say everything looks pretty nice, and like your truck is cool, and it seems like you can kit it out in some different ways. I haven't really gotten into much in the way of customization yet, but it seems like that's a thing you would potentially be able to do.
How many switches can you flip in the truck? Are there a lot of like fun like doodad switches to be like thrusters and anything that?
I'd say it's below like a Steel Battalion or like a really serious space sim. But there's probably more things to click around on than in your average truck cab.
Okay, that's fun. I like flipping switches.
Yeah, there's lots of buttons you can press. I really appreciate the fact that they just made the rig look like a rig. Like they could, it's that Austin thing with the giant robots. We could have made them look like anything. We made them look like us. We could have made it look like anything. We made it look like a truck because we know that's what you want.
Yeah, having not played this and probably never playing this, that's the best thing about this.
Yeah. 100%.
Is there a story?
I haven't really run into much of one yet, though. I mean, I've had I've spent an inordinate amount of time, I will say, just trying to get the backing up mechanics right. That at least a solid 45 minutes of that 2 hours was spent dealing with backing up and lining up into things.
Okay. I was looking at some of the Steam reviews, and seems like maybe you're not the only one having some trouble with the getting your head around the movement controls.
Yeah, it's finicky is the thing, and it's something I think I will adjust to over time. Right out of the box, I'm just like, it's breaking my brain.
Okay, I got to give this a try. Hopefully they get in their HOTAS support. Would be really fun.
They absolutely should do it, is the thing. I understand why it's not there at launch, but they should totally do it.
I mean, you want to be able to punch it, right? You want to be able to push something forward and just go and set the throttle, put the pedal down. That is a Star Trucker. That is also $25 on Steam or Xbox, and it is included with Xbox Game Pass. But that's not the only driving you have done, Alex Navarro.
I've also done some test driving of the unlimited variety.
What?
In what is it? Solar Crown is the subtitle of this one.
Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown.
They're still using the Unlimited name?
Yes, it is Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. Okay. I mean, that was the last two Test Drive games were Test Drive Unlimited games, and the last one was 13 years ago.
Like
that's how long it's been.
The first Unlimited was the first, like, we're doing like big multiplayer, like you'll just see people drive into your game type stuff, right?
Yeah, that was the progenitor of the Burnout Paradise and eventually what became the Forza Horizon games. It's the idea of it is a persistent open world. It was pretty limited, if I remember correctly, in the first one, but it was really novel because there were no other like 360 driving games of that time that were doing that.
Right. Like I remember having no interest in actual test drive. I still remember going like, man, that's like a fucking cool idea. I wish I cared more about that. 2006 was the first Test Drive Unlimited?
Yes, it was.
That's crazy.
And then the sequel was a few years after that, and then they have not done one since. And here's the thing.
This
is Nacon putting this out.
Uh-huh.
It is, I don't know much about the studio that is making it. It is incredibly mid.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Middling.
Oh, you know what that means.
I know what mid mean, but what does that mean in terms of this game?
So there's an amusing setup here where you're part of some sort of like big racing tournament thing. It takes place on a Hong Kong, which is a fairly, I don't know if it's 1-to-1, but it is a pretty sizable rendition of Hong Kong, it seems like. And you are driving your fancy cars around Hong Kong doing these races. You go, it's an open world map. You're going from waypoint to waypoint. There's races, there's shops and other things that you do. You customize a character. It's Forza Horizon, but without a lot of the off-roading shit because it's Hong Kong. And there are a very limited number of places in Hong Kong where you could do off-road driving, to be fair. That said, the driving is thoroughly unexciting. It is fine, but nothing about the driving model feels particularly standout. If anything, it maybe just feels a little bit loose and a little bit easy compared to something like a Horizon, which has a lot of, like with all the off-roading and kind of wild ways you can approach the tracks. There's some real, there's some variety there. So far, I have not found any of that variety in this. 2, it doesn't run great, which is a wild thing to say about a game I'm running in performance mode on the PS5. It has notable frame rate dips that are jarring, and I am not one that gets that mad about frame rate that often. This is pretty bad when it happens.
Well, racing games, I mean, it's either racing games or fighting games are like the genre where that's not acceptable, right?
Yeah.
Like those were always the two to me of like, this needs to be smooth to play correctly.
Yeah.
Add rhythm game in there, but I've rarely
rhythm
ever
game
seen
is like number 1 with a bullet. Yeah,
but they usually hit their mark. We should probably note, and I'm not saying that this will change, but you are playing a pre-release version. I don't know what the patching situation is.
Not only am I playing a pre-release version, apparently the patch that is about to come out for this thing is going to erase all the progress that reviewers made while they were playing it. So that was a last-minute email they sent. But here's the thing. Yes, maybe that will fix some of the performance issues. I sure hope they do, but it is not going to change the fundamental gameplay, I don't think, which is the bigger problem, that it is just not great driving. It is completely okay. It is, like, acceptable. It feels like very PS3 driving game kind of, like, energy. The things I started thinking about were, like, old Midnight Club games and like old Need for Speed games, but not like the best among them necessarily, just like ones that I remember playing, on PS2 or PS3 because they were there. This is very much, this is there. You can buy it for $50, but I don't know that this is necessarily the sort of thing I would say anyone who already owns several Forza Horizon games or other games like it needs to run out and get.
Do you know, has Test Drive always been about track racing or street racing? Was there ever a test drive where you're just driving cars?
Like way back in the Test Drive history, I'm sure there's like, Test Drive Off-Road wasn't a thing, was it? Yes. Test Drive Off-Road was totally a thing.
They used to make a lot of Test Drive games before they settled on the unlimited stuff.
Yeah, like, I mean, Test Drive's been around since like the 3DO and like kind of 16-bit computer era, like Atari ST and stuff.
Like, I always kind of thought of it as, like, those games were like the 989 sports games of their driving genre, which is to say they sell them, but they are not particularly great. And, I think Unlimited, I don't remember Unlimited 2 very well, but I thought Unlimited was, like, solid and, like I said, a novel concept for its time. This doesn't have any novelty. Like, there just isn't a thing here that is like a big hook that says, this is the reason you would be playing this. It just kind of feels like an also-ran, admittedly, of games that came after the thing that this game is based on, but then went on to make that concept much more exciting and enticing.
Do you know why they call it Solar Crown?
Solar Crown, I think, is the name of the organization that's running like the sport, like the races and stuff that's going on. Yeah, It's all very dumb.
These I assume, but I guess I shouldn't assume. These are licensed cars?
Yes, there are licensed cars in this game. I've not unlocked a ton so far, but like, I have a Ford Mustang, I have a Nissan, Fairlady Z or whatever. I was driving a Lamborghini during the tutorial mission, so they have a decent number of car licenses.
Is your car in it?
I have not found my car yet, no. And I'm not sure I ever will, because I don't know if I'm booting this up again, if I'm being honest.
Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown.
$50.
Did you get into any multiplayer stuff? Did you see anybody else driving around? Are there ghost machines?
It wasn't really out at the time that I was playing, and I did not find anyone really online when I was playing it. I think I started playing right around the time all the reviews were going up, so I think most people had unplugged from it, so I've not really done much multiplayer, but it does have multiplayer racing. I know that.
Okay, but it's not like you didn't see other players populating a world or like a hub?
Not while I was playing, no.
Okay. Like Alex said there, $50 for the base version, and it goes up from there.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it for the games, unless anybody else has a thing to add there. Some pretty meaty things to sink our teeth into. I assume some of these games, maybe not Test Drive Unlimited, we'll hear about again more as the month goes on here. Probably gonna I'm definitely gonna play more Astro Bot and then chew away at some Star Wars in the coming weeks here. And we'll see if Star Wars gets any patches out there. I assume. All right, that's going to do it for the games. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with the news. Stick around. All right, we are back, and now, finally, Alex.
They killed...
Say it again.
Concord. They killed it.
Well,
probably. Maybe. I don't know. They killed its current iteration.
Yes, that's for sure.
I was looking back over the stories, and you were right, Brad. It does seem like they are saying, "Hey, we are just refunding you."
Yeah, yes, you're right. I guess we should say what's actually happening just for the benefit of people who haven't heard. But yes, that was kind of my read too. This went up on the PlayStation blog from Ryan Ellis, the director of Concord. First paragraph, well, okay, an important update on Concord. Sounds like an ominous headline to me. First paragraph is some platitudes about, listening to feedback and thanking the community and stuff, but here's the important second paragraph. While many qualities of the experience resonated with players, we also recognize that other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we'd intended. Therefore, at this time, we have decided to take the game offline beginning September 6th and explore options, including those that will better reach our players.
Explore options.
So the options is doing a lot of work there.
Explore options.
So open-ended.
It's very loaded, or yes, it's a very load-bearing phrase.
Yeah.
Before I read this post, when I saw this news, I was like, oh, they're going free-to-play. They should have been free-to-play to begin with. Like, what did they think they were doing, charging for a hero shooter in a landscape where nobody does that anymore? But this sounds so non-committal that I don't even take that as a given at this point.
Well, let's just say before we get into the armchairing quarterbacking here, Brad, why don't you continue with what the nuts and bolts of this January 6th.
Actually,
January 6th.
No. No. Where were you on September 6th?
Where was Concord on September 6th?
The next paragraph starts while we determine the best path ahead. So, I guess they probably don't even know. I mean, let's not forget this game's been out for about a week and a half.
Yeah.
At the time of this announcement, the game had been out for well under 2 weeks. This is unprecedented, I feel like. I mean, I compared this to the Cyberpunk situation earlier. I mean, that is kind of similar, but that game was legit broken in a lot of ways. Like, a lot of people just couldn't play it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is a fully functional game that they are just pulling the plug on after less than 2 weeks. It's crazy.
For all intents and purposes, as far as we know, doing what it intended to do by design, if not having the returns it wanted.
Ran well, played well,
Yeah.
Subject to your own opinion about how it plays, but it functioned.
Yeah, it wasn't a broken game by any stretch. There wasn't really anything wrong with it that was outside the realm of maybe just a lack of ambition and not a really great hook to hang this game on. Yeah,
and I'll mention now, I had kind of intentionally been avoiding some of the FUD, I guess I would say, about the sales numbers, because that stuff turns into such a kind of hate train these days, when it's this game's got 90 concurrents on Steam or whatever. So I just kind of I was it'll do what it does. I'm not going to sink into that morass. But I actually went and looked at what some analysts have had to say about this game, and we were talking Matt Piscatella at Circana, Simon Carless,
people who do this for a living,
yes,
for
people
real.
Who know what they're talking about. Estimated this game has sold about 25,000 copies across both platforms.
That
which
is horrendous.
Yes. It was the Steam numbers made it pretty obvious not a lot of copies had sold on Steam, but that's also not the market for this as much, because, free to play is even more of an expectation on PC. But the PS5 numbers being this bad is just catastrophic. 15,000 on PlayStation is what they have estimated.
And so, yeah, they're realizing that this is not the product they want out in the market.
Yeah, or this is not
supporting,
going to go.
Yeah.
Like this is not, if it hasn't happened already, it's not going to happen. So
Concord, a live service game, plenty of work that would have to maintain and keep up for balancing, for introducing rollout, for all the live service stuff. They have clearly hit the eject button. They're doing a recall on it. So Brad, how is that going to work if you paid your $40 for this across the multiple platforms?
Well, that's the thing that's not entirely clear here, because we will begin to offer a refund for all gamers who have purchased the game for PS5 or PC. So that says we will begin to offer a full refund, but then later on, a refund will be issued back to your original payment method.
Which could still just mean like once you have accepted the offer of refund.
Yes. Customers who purchased from other digital storefronts will also be refunded. Like there's, it goes back and forth in here where it sounds like, hey, you can request a refund, or hey, we are refunding everyone. Although if the numbers are actually that low, they're actually not taking that big a hit to just fully refund. Like
that might be why they're doing it.
Yeah, I don't know what the legal standards are around this stuff, but it's possible they just don't want this headache. They don't want it on the books that they owe some kind of support to people who spent money on this and can no longer play it. It's certainly much easier to just wash their hands and walk away if they just refund everybody while they decide what to do with this.
Though I'm sure not easy by any means. I do wonder, you have to imagine, okay, look, they go through and they kind of step-by-step Steam, Epic, and other places, but you think on those platforms they get their, like Epic has some kind of restocking fee, or do you think they give their full refund back to be like, hey, we're still taking our percentage of this, you can get your money back, we're still taking the transaction fee, whatever Epic's is, was it like 15%, 20%, or whatever?
It's like 12 for
12.
Epic.
We're still taking this, and good luck, you're gonna have to eat it.
I don't know how Epic handles that stuff. I don't think anybody else. I think it's refund of the full purchase price, especially in this case where you literally cannot play the game anymore.
No, I don't mean back to the consumer. I mean to Sony.
Oh, that's possible. That's certainly possible.
Where Epic is like, this is on you. We hosted it. We hosted your files. We managed the transaction. We are going to, this could be a pretty rough one. It is a rough one. It's a rough one.
It's a rough one for everyone involved here, because this is a game that it spent, I don't know if that 8 years number actually turned out to be 100% correct, but it has certainly spent years in development. People put a lot of work into this thing, whatever you ultimately think of the end product. They did not ship a broken game. They shipped the game, it seems like they more or less intended to, and less than 2 weeks after it comes out, the whole rug is out. It's just right out from under you. So, Brad, you linked us a piece over on IGN, which kind of goes through a pretty detailed autopsy of some of the headwinds that Concord was facing, and by Rebecca Valentine. And while none of these feel like things we haven't acknowledged, it is interesting to just see them all laid out in a row here. And I think the biggest thing, Alex, maybe you just reminded me of it, is a game that maybe has been in development for such a long time feels like it missed the market multiple times, I think.
By a few years,
it's. I started to say it's like Death of 1,000 Cuts, but it's really a death by 3 cuts, I think. It's kind of a triple whammy to me of nobody wants a live service anymore. Actually, I meant to put the Rocksteady layoffs in this news segment, and I forgot to put that in there, but Rocksteady had some, I think, fairly significant layoffs.
They halved their QA team.
Yeah. So, God, Suicide Squad was this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally a handful of months ago.
That's hard to remember, but we had 2 extreme high-profile failures of new live service games this year from major publishers, right? So, pretty obvious there's a strong knee-jerk reaction against new live service games at this point. Also, it was not free to play. Nobody who plays these types of games wants to have to buy them out of the box. And I really think the Guardians of the Galaxy comparisons, also a lot of people, that was the final nail, I think, for most people, was just okay, I'm over Marvel, or I've seen those movies, or this just is too similar. This is you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was too many knocks against it for too many people.
It's a really hard market. In 2024, all of those things you said may have made more sense if a design doc were being written out in 2016, 2015, when those things were not as well tread,
Yeah.
So that's tough. And I don't know if I'm over live service games completely, but for me, I think you really have to bring something new to the table. And Concord seemed to be competent, but not that ambitious in that regard.
No, and if you're not going to be ambitious, you need something to hook it to. Like, again, that Marvel Rivals game, which is coming later this year, which is, I believe, free to play, has a hook, which is to say it is a big brand explosion.
Yeah.
It is a thing that they can slot an existing universe into. And even if the game itself is not that ambitious, and it's not, it plays well enough and does the license well enough that I think it will do well on those merits. This game did not have any of that. It tried to hook into this notion of a Guardians of the Galaxy-like universe, but then sort of just drops you in with these characters you have no real attachment to and assumes that you're going to like them the same way you liked Overwatch characters when you first started playing that game. But none of it had any of what, whatever nebulous thing you want to call the Blizzard magic. It had none of that. And it's just a completely competent shooter with no real... No gleaming aspect that makes it stand out from anything else other than the price tag, which is probably its worst feature.
Team shooter, it's like hero shooter, which again is a particular genre that I'm not that attracted to, but I don't hate by any means. But you get something like Helldivers that dropped, and
another Sony game,
and
they're having problems too. But that game certainly didn't have a problem selling.
I think the problem with that game is just keeping that momentum, like kind of unexpected momentum, right?
Yeah.
And that's a mostly PvE game, and it's a live service game for sure, a battle pass and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But that thing blew up. And so you look at that and you're like, what did they do so differently that we missed our mark on, right? And the genre is being fairly different there. But also tonally, that game just hit something that nobody else is doing. It just feels fresh for fascism, but it feels it's got a tone to it that is a little bolder, let's say, a little spicier than what I got out of Concord.
Yeah, there's just no spice in Concord. Like, the action is completely solid but unremarkable. There's a good variety of characters, but none of them are hugely standouts. I still think the lack of ults or something to build toward within a given match of note is still a real problem. And man, I just got to tell you, I went in there after this news dropped yesterday, and I started playing a little bit more. I was like, what are people doing? And it was just listless in there, man. People were playing, the games that were being played were very low energy. It was a lot of people just kind of standing around, finding a spot, just playing themselves there and shooting. And in the ranked matches I played, it was a lot of people self-killing because they're trying to get to level 100 before Friday.
Is there a trophy for that?
I assume there's some kind of trophy or other thing you get for hitting the level cap.
I feel a very perverse compulsion to get in there and play as much of this game as I can by Friday.
Yeah.
I just want to clock some trophies on my account just to say that I did.
So yeah, I mean, look, it's a live service game, so if they're not forcing refunds, you're going to have a paperweight on your console or PC because
physical versions of this game in stores.
Oh, I should go buy one.
They say to contact your retailer for a refund on those.
I guess here is a hypothetical question we just talked about. It's a sad state of affairs, but is there any world you can think of where if you own the physical version of this Concord, whatever they come out with later on, you'll have
it'll auto patch?
What is it? Not even auto patch. I was going to say you'll have rights to get whatever comes out later for their next Concord. Or you think they'd have to have a different disc or some kind of? I think they'd be able to track. Hey, look, you bought this thing. Clearly, you can get this other game. You know what? I take it back.
No,
forget
take it back because there
if
is
they
a
make
new
a
version of this.
Concord again.
They're not doing that. That will never happen again.
Yeah, get your refund, get your money back, unless you want to keep a collector's item and you're storing things for posterity and keeping a copy of it.
This thing is almost NBA Elite territory right now.
Yeah.
Just I need to have a sealed copy of this. I
was going to say, get your refund and then immediately buy another copy of Concord and make sure it stays sealed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if it comes back, it will be free to play.
Right. What am I even saying?
But even that is an if at this point. I mean, they've got to do something with it though. Like they put too much money into it to completely just
like make it a feature of PS Plus. Like make it a thing that's like, hey, by subscribing to PS Plus, you get this game for free forever. You know, like if that's the way you got to go, just go do something with it.
Give boosts. Like this should be. Look, I'm not a marketing person. I have no idea how this stuff works in the market, but you need your player base. You got to make it free for everyone. I think.
Yeah.
So like,
I think like that was the real death spiral. I mean, it was the stuff I mentioned earlier, but I think once the narrative took hold of nobody is playing this thing, it was a death spiral. It was unrecoverable at that point because who's going to spend money to buy in if all they are seeing out there is, hey, nobody's playing this. Whereas if it had been free to play, they could have just downloaded it to see for themselves, you know, and like, I was starting to see, I mean, it's very anecdotal, but, you know, some people on my Twitter feed were saying, like, you know, I've been spending time with this, and, like, it's not bad. Like, it's growing on me. Like, it's totally fine for one of these. Like, I'm actually having a good time with it. So, like, it might have had a slow build if it had been more accessible in that way. So, I don't know. We'll see what they do with it.
Maybe they see what, was it Deadlock? What's Valve's thing? Maybe they see what's going on over there in the space, and maybe they decide to redesign.
What if they soft relaunch Concord without telling anybody?
Yes.
Let it build some mystique. Let it be gone for like 6 months or a year. And then all of a sudden Concord just shows back up with no warning.
What if Deadlock is actually Concord version 2 and they made a strategic partnership with Valve to test this new thing out? And they're like, "Oh, you really like this game? It was me all along, Concord."
Guess what?
Wrestling shirt Concord. Rip. Yeah. I feel for the devs who poured a lot of energy into this. This has to be heartbreaking to have this thing pulled down. I'm just having been around developers in this for a long time. I'm going to also guess there are a lot of unhappy people inside with some design decisions or seeing how it was not promoted or rolled out. And so we'll see what happens. The Concord, interesting game story at the very least.
Here's what I want to know. Whenever this story is eventually told, I would love to find out how long this escape hatch plan was in effect, because I have to imagine after the tepid response that beta got like a month or two ago, there was already preparations being made in case this thing just tanks.
Yeah. Do you think, I know Bungie just had their staffing layoffs and stuff like that as part of Sony. You think they're shepherding some of this? I know they were kind of brought in as a live service.
No, if anything, it sounded like they have been stripped of a lot of that influence in the course of that reorg.
It's really wild. It's like Helldivers became a darling of anybody who wants to launch a live service game, almost to its detriment because they were underprepared for it. And then Sony having so much trouble trying to keep the ball in the air with their other live service stuff. This is such a dumb thing to think about, but it reminds me of the, like, you can't say you're cool, you can only be cool kind of thing, right? Like,
and they are just tremendously late to the party with most of this stuff.
Yeah, it's weird. It's such a weird thing. And again, like you said, Alex, Helldivers having its own problems, but almost a victim of its own popularity in some of those cases, and trying to figure out how to manage a live service game that is that popular at that point. I feel like it's some of the problems Concord wish it had. All right. That is the Concord news. Well, if you own or purchase Concord, I guess it sounds like this stuff is going to be in progress, and you should be seeing some action by the shop or Sony that you bought it in. I think some of the language in there said, "We'll be contacting you to confirm you got your refunds."
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Not too dissimilar. Gosh, what is Google's streaming service? The thing they sold hardware for. Yep, that's exactly the faces.
Oh, you're talking about Stadia. I didn't know if you meant
Stadia.
You're talking about video game streaming.
Video game streaming, the Stadia. When I got my receipt for that, Google gave me the money back for that thing.
And you still had a Chromecast out of the deal.
Mm-hmm. I did, which is in a bin somewhere. I wonder if you bought this thing from like an Amazon or something, if they will ask for the disc back, or if they will just issue a refund.
I don't know. Actually, that's a very unique situation where they have basically no use for the disc. Right. I wonder if maybe they have to send it back to Sony for accountability reasons or something.
They drill a hole through it.
But it's not like they can sell it again because the game won't do anything.
Yeah. I don't. Oh my God. All the production costs on that stuff. Just like, it's just so much money.
Yep.
Speaking of so much money making games extremely expensive, take this. It's dangerous to go alone.
Yep.
Remedy has a new partner.
Yeah. Wow. What a deal Remedy has announced with Annapurna.
Yeah.
Which seems like a match made in heaven.
Sounds like everybody's going to get what they want out of it. Hopefully.
Yeah, Remedy has signed a pretty major deal with Annapurna to like do a bunch of things. Annapurna is going to help co-fund Control 2. I had all this stuff in my head and now I've forgotten.
50%.
Yes, it is 50%. Yes, that's right. So Annapurna is taking on half of the development budget for Control 2. They are also bringing Control and Alan Wake to, quote, film, TV, and beyond.
Yes.
So Control and Alan Wake TV shows and or movies coming at some point from the sound of things. And if you want to get into financial nitty gritty, the split is that Remedy makes more from the video game portions of this deal and Annapurna makes more from the film and TV portions.
Yeah.
Is how people are getting paid here. But this sounds like a fairly long-term partnership. Also, Remedy retains ownership of all the IP for what it's worth.
Yeah, I would look. These are properties that are like ripe for movies and TV series.
Let Sam Lake direct that movie. It's just he's in the Kojima territory of the man just wants to make a movie. Let him make a movie. Actually, I don't know. He may very well be happier making video games that just incorporate a lot of cinematic elements. But yeah, of course, this got the social media mill churning about like who should they cast in this stuff, and a lot of people are just like cast the actors from the games.
They're in there already, right? They're in there already.
But yeah, I mean those both seem like universes that are ripe for adaptation for sure.
Though, okay, that's the deal. That's the agreement, and now we could talk about the wish casting here. I really don't want them to go back and remake movie versions of Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2 because they are so narratively driven already, right? Like those things are, especially Alan Wake 2 works so well in its video game form because of the weird stuff it does, and like don't try and adapt that for a movie, but do other stuff in that universe. Do other fun things. Do a anthology like they did for the DLC, where you're just taking characters and give me a 45-minute episode. Those anthology pieces could be movies, like those one-offs.
And that's what Control could be. If you're doing Control, like that's a great X-Files style TV series.
Yeah, like they could take the Fallout tack and come up with their own characters in that universe and pay respect to the property without having to like co-opt the actual characters. You know, like there's no reason I didn't even think about that, but yeah, like there's no reason like a Control TV series needs to feature Jesse Faden at all, right? It could just be Federal Bureau of Control agents doing weird shit, right?
Yeah, it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like it's minor players in the larger universe. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, they could do it. It's easy. It writes itself. Get the right people attached to it.
Just make Jesse Faden like the angry chief that calls the main characters into her office to yell every once in a while.
Right. I mean, she's the new director, right, at the end of the game. So.
And make it all just lead up into Control 2 or whatever Condor is going to be.
Man, the Remedy connected universe just gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Except then take a break and don't overdo it because I don't want to burn out on that stuff.
You know, I'll give them this credit. They have come to their larger cinematic universe, I think, about as naturally as any developer ever has, and the ways they have chosen to exploit it and use it have almost always been delightful. So I'm giving them carte blanche to do whatever the fuck they want with their cinematic universe, because they clearly have enough respect for it that they're not just going to, like, wring every possible dollar out of it.
Think they could ever buy away or peel out of I guess it's 2K's hands, Max Payne.
Or Take-Two, yeah. I doubt it.
Yeah. I bet they could get Take-Two to fund a new Max Payne game at some point, though.
Yeah, but I would want it folded back in, you know?
Not a chance. Not a fucking chance.
Yeah, the way they've gone hard on Alan Wake and Control very much feels like, you know what, we need to build up our own stuff that we own.
Okay.
And just leave that stuff behind.
Mm-hmm.
And like wink and nod at it.
Yeah. Which they do.
You know, a lot of that stuff doesn't feel great. often, but this one seems like a decent fit. I hope everybody's happy with it.
Yeah.
You know, they were with Epic last time, right? For Alan Wake 2. That was their development partner.
Epic published Alan Wake 2. Yeah, they sound excited. This announcement, which granted was written by a guy I have been friends with for a very long time, but like they sound pretty effusive in this article they put up on their site about the partnership.
Yeah, that's cool. I hope it's cool.
Yeah. Yes. Also, it's still exciting that they are making a Control 2. I hope that's amazing. Control it's not a perfect game, but it's so fucking cool.
And then Condor is still just nobody knows.
Yeah, beyond what they've said about it being a multiplayer project.
Okay. All right. Speaking of games that have a place in your heart, Brad, this next story about Astroneer.
The rest of the news here is just some quick hits real fast to go through. They announced paid DLC for Astroneer, which I never expected to see.
Wow.
Because I'm pretty sure at one point they kind of like, they may not have said, hey, we're done with this game, but they gave the impression they were done with it. Like I'm pretty sure they have announced they are working on their next project already. But then also the developer System Era got acquired. Was it Devolver that bought them?
Jeez, who owns them now?
Wasn't it Devolver? Yes, it was Devolver that bought System Era last year. So now they have a corporate parent, so now they're making DLC for this game.
Which is great.
I'll take more Astroneer.
Yeah.
Astroneer rules.
This is Glitch Walkers.
Yeah, Glitch Walkers is the name of the DLC. The Steam page, it's hard to tell exactly what the scope of this is. At one point, it makes it sound like there's a whole new system, but then at another point, it sounds like it might just be one new planet.
Yeah, that's right.
Travel
Outlaws, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea how to pronounce the travel to the Eoluz system. In pursuit of a grand threat, blah, blah, blah. But then later it's like, Eoluz, a brand new planet, is our biggest and most complex planet to date. So it sounds like it might just be one new planet. Sounds like there's AI. A rogue Astroneer has wormed into the system and taken control.
Oh no.
So it sounds like there might be some like AI Astroneer to deal with, which sounds interesting. Like new tech tree, new doohickeys to build.
And again, just because we live in 2024, like lowercase AI.
Like, right. Like video game AI.
Bad guys.
Yes. Anyway, I mean, this sounds awesome. I don't know. Oh, they say that's coming out this year, actually.
Did you watch the trailer?
Yeah.
It looked like Astroneer.
Yes, not a lot in there, but
kind of at the end, like it feels like the new stuff is maybe there's new stuff beyond that, but you know, the surfboard and that stuff was in already. So
yeah. Yes. It's cool they're doing this though.
I think it's cool as well.
I would like new Astroneer to play.
Yeah, and especially if it adds anything else in the. I know they've done some of this before in their updates, but in their free updates, but any more automation.
Yes.
I do wonder if you'll be able to bring all of your stuff into whatever system this is.
I don't know.
Imagine you didn't. That would be. I could see both ways. Initially, my heart would sink, and then I guess it'd be like, all right, well.
Yeah, I mean, going through the loop is the fun part.
Right.
So.
If you're self-contained and you are stripped of your stuff, maybe it's
I mean, like 30 seconds of an intro cutscene is all that's required to, like, the cargo hold of your ship blew up.
Yeah.
Shit.
Or you lost your backpack and all its production.
Right. Yeah. They very easily could just wipe the slate clean. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. If they wipe the slate clean and they give you all new source elements to work from, that would make sense to me. Where you're just like, okay, well, you couldn't build any of those other things anyway because the system doesn't have those resources,
right?
And that would be a lot of new game because you're basically rebuilding. But cool.
Yeah.
I would
awesome
like
that it's happening.
Check that out.
Speaking of cool that it's happening, I guess.
Yeah.
So this will be the shortest PS5 Pro update to date. Supposedly that thing is getting announced in the next 2 weeks. There you go. Is the rumor that is circulating right now from Bill Kuhn, who is a prolific leaker with a solid track record of being right. They say first half of September is the announcement for the PS5 Pro. They also put out a sketch of it.
That was my favorite part of the story.
It's like a courtroom sketch.
Right. They say they're in possession of the box front, which I don't know if maybe they're pulling this from somebody that works in marketing that has this thing or a retail partner or something. I believe I went and looked at the site. Deal Labs is where that user posts all their stuff, and it's French, and I auto-translated it. The way they described it, I think it's like they are not legally allowed to show copyrighted images or something along those lines, is what they said. So here's a sketch of it instead that we made. I wonder if the image they've got, they're worried about a hidden watermark and they don't want to burn their source.
That would make some sense.
Maybe.
Was my guess. But anyway, it looks like a PS5. Except it's got racing stripes.
or vent or ridges or something
Down the
along
middle.
the sides, yeah.
Yeah. But if, like me, you were hoping that it was going to be a somewhat radical departure from the god-awful design of the PS5, you were out of luck.
Nope. They are pot committed on that thing.
They actually, I mean, this is super unconfirmed, but a lot of people are positing this might be compatible with the existing faceplates that are out there, because, you know, Sony does sell cosmetic faceplate swaps. So it probably wouldn't be that hard to make a form factor that could still accommodate those. It sounds like it might be thicker. But anyway, at any rate, you know, it doesn't bear a lot more discussion, because if this is correct, then within the next under 2 weeks, we supposedly will have a real announcement.
It's ridiculous. I just feel like we're like narrowing down this window until we finally get to the day.
That's just product launches these days. It's crazy.
Just announce your product launch.
Like from at the point where Apple could no longer keep a secret, I was just like, okay, nobody can keep secrets anymore. Like nothing will ever be a surprise again. Like it's impossible.
Just put your date out. But if you are 2 weeks away, just say we're having a state of play or an announcement.
Yeah, I wonder if that is imminent. Like any day now, they're going to be like, hey, we got a special live stream or whatever.
Because at that point you're before TGS, right? You're going to be inside of the window or outside of the window for it. So just put up your announcement.
That could make sense with Sony coming back to TGS. I wonder if they get the announcement for this out ahead of time and then they actually show it to people, to press at TGS. Like they have units there. Your
physical racing stripes.
Yeah.
I guess the only other thing here, which may have been known quantities before, but in this story, you linked from Video Games Chronicles, you know, some speculation on the CPU upgrade and the GPU upgrade.
Yeah, there's a bunch of talk about it. It sounds like the GPU is pretty dramatically faster, but that's the type of stuff that we might as well just wait and see what the actual specs are and what the digital foundries of the world have to say. Because I feel like release timing is one thing, but those sorts of numbers can definitely not. Or kind of get skewed as the game of telephone is played.
What do you feel like, Brad? Do you feel like the PS5 has hit a place where, you know, you're ready for this system, or you
for sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Like playing Outlaws. Like Outlaws runs pretty, like it runs nicely in that 40 hertz mode, but it looks pretty low res. You can definitely see it. Like you can definitely see the compromises to get it to hit that frame rate. So just a higher res and smoother frame rates, like absolutely.
That's exactly the game that what I was thinking about when I was playing Outlaws. Being like, I think I could use a pro for this.
Yes. It looks a little grimy. You like the aliasing is pretty pronounced on the not 4K mode.
Or I guess my hope was I hope a PS5 Pro fixes this.
Yes, and you know the rumor is this is shipping with their version of DLSS. You know, kind of machine learning upscaling built in. So. That is custom made to make things look sharper and run smoother at the same time.
All right, last thing that I feel like I need on my bingo card here for this is the price, and that's what I assume we will get.
Yeah, there are rumors about that going around, but those are there's so much console warring that goes on Twitter, and people just make like deranged fans of one console make fake marketing materials to try to make the other console look bad and stuff. Like it's I fucking hate that shit so much.
It's a really dumb world we live in.
Well, do you guys think that if this sounds like we're going to get some of this, at least in September, let's say, do you feel like we get a date and a price alongside the drop?
Probably,
of this?
If it's coming out this year, I think. Yeah, I think they will go ahead and announce. Maybe they hold the price back briefly, but I think at this point you're like 2 months out from a launch. You just do it.
I think I have to at least consider this. I'm not necessarily itching to go out and buy a new PS5, but I will say my current PS5 has been acting a little hinky lately, and I'm starting to think maybe I'll need to do this, because I've had instances where it has not booted up correctly, and I've also had it straight up reset in the middle of games without going into sleep mode without me telling it to.
That's not great.
No,
I had a bunch of problems like that the first year. And it took multiple factory resets, and it finally calmed down and started behaving itself again. So
yeah, I might just need to do that, because I did have an instance where it just straight up, I booted it up and then it just froze and would not like I had to literally pull the power plug out to get it to go again.
Yeah, that could be hardware failure, actually, from the sound of it.
Can you hear your fan spinning?
Not really. Like, it sounds normal, like how it always kind of has. So nothing inside sounds broken, but it is just behaving strangely over the last couple of weeks.
I assume the PS5 has that rebuild database feature that the PS4 had on it, right?
Yeah, they still use a similar file system that loses its shit if the power is pulled.
I might need to just have it do a rebuild at some point and see if that fixes it.
I don't know. Brad, has it been talked about what kind of internal storage this will ship with? If it's any different than the PS5?
No, I don't. Nobody's really said, but it's guaranteed to be the same.
Ugh. I did delete stuff to get Star Wars on.
Oh, you mean the size of storage?
I mean size. Yeah.
What does the Slim ship with? It's 1 terabyte default, right?
I thought it was the same.
I thought it was. Maybe I'm out of my mind.
I always lose track between the Xbox and where PS5 is.
Oh no, it is a terabyte.
It is, okay.
So yeah,
games are big. The games are big.
Maybe they get, man, it would be great if they went to 2 terabytes in the Pro. I don't know that they will.
I feel like then the price is just going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, that's such an optional, and especially when they provide a user accessible way to increase the storage, like they're trying to keep the price as low as they can. That's like the first thing that goes.
Yeah, and I guess it hasn't, that storage hasn't gotten that much cheaper, though it has gotten some, right?
It's gotten somewhat cheaper, but there's also just like kind of supply chain realities of like, maybe we're getting a good volume deal on this one specific thing, and we can't afford to lose that. And
it probably hasn't been long enough where it is more cost effective to buy the 2 than the 1 because like the 1 is more expensive.
Yeah.
All right, Brad, why don't you hit this last story?
Well, I will say real fast, my prediction for this thing is 1 SKU digital only at $5.99.
Digital only, not even with the removable, like the supplemental
disk drive, but make it compatible, because that's assuming. And a lot of people have. I don't think this is confirmed, but it's like speculated heavily that it will be compatible, like form factor wise, with the existing add-on drive.
Okay, is that thing like in stock places, or is that one of those accessories that's impossible?
Yeah, I think it's. Let me see. Are you in stock on PlayStation Direct? Yes, you are.
How much is it? 50?
It's $80. So like that's the thing. If you are, because the Slim with drive is $4.99, so that allows you to say like, we're only $100 more than the Slim, but you're conveniently shaving off the disk drive to save another however much on the price. Like that would make the most sense to me.
Yeah, I could see it.
All right, last story. Barely a story. It's more of just to pour one out. I like talking about old hardware these days. Nintendo is not repairing 3DSs of any type anymore.
Okay.
Like I think the other aspect of this is like the Wii U and the 3DS and stuff still feel new to me. Those still feel like the new Nintendo hardware in some respect.
Time marches on, man.
Yes, to see the gradual trickle of things being shut down from that generation of Nintendo stuff just keeps like hitting me in the face. They're not servicing 3DS units at all anymore. Like the last one, the new Nintendo 3DS is now no longer eligible for service. They are still servicing 2DSs. But it's crazy how fast that stuff went from the thing to like a thing of the past.
I mean, everything's accelerating, man. We're shutting down live service games after 2 weeks. Like, shit is fucking crazy right now.
You're not wrong. I mean, I don't know what Nintendo's support window was like. Maybe it was always like a 10, 12-year thing or something, so maybe this is not that big a deal, but...
Well, they're saying they just don't have the parts anymore to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the DS just doesn't feel that old, or the 3DS doesn't feel that old.
It's like, 13 years old now, I think?
Yeah.
The original. This is just kind of notable. Like, it's not some tragedy at this point because, like, we've talked about this on the Ramblecast a lot lately, but, like, the efforts out there to both revitalize old consoles and also, like, upgrade them in insane ways have never been more pronounced, you know? Like, people will keep 3DSs going from now on. Somebody will be out there, like, sourcing new screens for them and coming up with whatever parts need to be made. Like the 3DS will definitely live on.
I do wonder where this falls in the kind of right to repair fight of if you have like when you need to, how long do you need to support the supply chain with parts in a place where in a world where right to repair exists as intended. How long do you need to service the marketplace, and do you need to not sue third parties from coming up with replacement parts that are OEM or infringing on some copyright, but close enough, right? To be like, hey, look, this is the part for the 3DS. They don't make it anymore. You know, we don't have to get in trouble from Nintendo.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there's any legal standard around that stuff. Like, definitely stuff that's like 20 years old, they have not. Yeah. Like, there are a bajillion things for the GameCube out there now that make the GameCube very cool. But Nintendo does not seem to pay attention to those.
Yeah, like the stuff that I feel like I'd want are like, all right, how about screens, right? Like fans, right? But I don't need I don't expect to get circuit boards or chips, right?
Yeah, I guess actually, now that I think about it, like the 3DS is probably a unique example where it needs a specific type of screen, I think, right, to make the 3D work. Isn't it like a lenticular screen?
Oh gosh, I forgot all about that. Yes.
So that might be something that's a little harder to source over time, but again, I'm positive the community will come up with durable solutions for that kind of thing.
Oh, Nintendo.
Yeah.
All right, that is the news. And it is ever changing. So by the time you hear this, who knows what the news will be?
Concord #1 game next week.
Yeah, Concord could be back out. All right, we've got an email address here. It is podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. Brad Shoemaker, what do you got in the email bag?
Yeah, let's do a couple here. Travis and Fargo. Jon Hamm is broadly considered to be a perfect balance of handsome and funny.
Mm-hmm.
With this in mind... this in mind, who is the video game equivalent of Jon Hamm? I have an answer that's completely stupid. I don't know why the first thing that came to my mind is Johnny Gat.
Johnny Gat, perfect. He's handsome.
Didn't people really turn on Johnny Gat toward the end, though?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Nathan Drake is pretty charming.
Yeah, sure.
He's not. He's a rogue, but he's not like a. He hasn't crossed the boundary into hated yet.
Are we talking about a performer or a developer, or are we talking about a character?
I think a character.
Okay.
Well, open-ended, but that's how I read it, as who is a character in games.
There are no real humans in games, Alex, that are...
Well, I mean, the Jon Hamm of video games is clearly Sam Lake.
Sure.
Okay,
in this moment, sure.
Yeah.
Like, like the right mix of handsome and charming, and you're always happy to see him when he shows up and stuff. Like, I feel like that is probably the most direct one-to-one I can point to.
Sam Lake, also a character in video games, so it works.
And a very distinctive face that works great on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True.
Mario, it's not Mario. He's the sellout poster boy that he's having people killed in a back room somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Character-wise, because I don't think there is a perfectly charming and handsome video game character. I think they're always a little off with either the handsome factor or the charm factor in one way or another.
The main character from Space Marine. He is he's the perfect. He's handsome.
There it is.
Charming.
The ape from Black and White.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he's eating poop, sometimes he's eating kids. You don't know.
Right. That's right.
You don't know.
Just like Jon Hamm.
Just like Jon Hamm at his best.
He went and conveniently pooped on the doorstep of that guy who doubted my divinity.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Jon Hamm did.
That's right. Thanks, Jon Hamm. Actually, this email also kind of follows right along from that one. Dan from Sydney, Australia wants us to play Fuck, Marry, Kill.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu, Chris Pratt as Mario, Ben Schwartz as Sonic.
Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu.
Fuck.
Ryan Reynolds was a Pikachu?
Yes, in Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that dude makes money.
Alex, that was also my...
That's my fuck.
That was my...
Which one?
Ryan Reynolds is Pikachu.
Oh, okay.
I'm fucking that Pikachu.
And I think we... probably not hard to guess who the kill is.
You're killing Sonic, huh?
No!
What?
No, I'll marry Ben Schwartz's Sonic. That's honestly, that is the best case scenario for a Sonic the Hedgehog.
Strong same.
Wow.
I say this as someone who does not love Sonic the Hedgehog as a character. His performance in those movies is part of the reason why they're tolerable at all.
Sure, I could see that. I haven't even seen those movies. I just like Ben Schwartz a lot.
Yeah, he's fun in that movie. And we're absolutely killing Mario as Chris Pratt. Like, we don't need that. And I'm doing it on Charles Martinet's behalf.
Okay. In front of him. Look him in the eyes.
Yes.
And then, okay.
I'm going to live film it, and I'm going to broadcast it to Charles Martinet's house so he can watch it happen.
I mean, it's fair. While you're fucking a Pikachu. Well,
no, I do that on my own time. Thank you very much. That's between me and Ben, my wife, Ben Schwartz.
What you do in your own Sonic home is your business.
Exactly.
Okay, sure.
Yep.
Yes, I guess it's hard to argue there with that.
Yeah,
It's
I'm not
the
marrying
definitive-
Pikachu.
That's the definitive stack ranking.
Yeah, I could see it.
All right, got one here from Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Wario64 posted that Nintendo was holding an event in Sydney, Australia, and as part of that event, they showed an updated Zelda timeline that includes Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Great. Keep it going.
Now, like any sane person, I know the Zelda timeline is stupid and does not matter. Those are in all caps.
Okay,
Correct.
Stop editorializing, but yes.
No, correct.
Because these games were never meant to be part of a singular timeline, but I still think it's fun to think about. That in mind, it's probably silly for me to be upset by the fact that Nintendo has chosen to put those games in a wholly separate timeline. What's the point of even suggesting the idea of a timeline if you're just going to say, oh, these games are unrelated? I'm starting to think all this Zelda timeline stuff is nonsense.
I'm trying to look this up. Wait, did they actually just do a separate universe?
Yes, he attached a screen, like a photo of the timeline into his email if you want to pull it up.
Yeah, what does this vertical line mean?
They literally just shunted these two games off to the side and stuck a vertical line between them and all the other games as if to say, no, these are over here.
That
They're not
sucks shit.
Here's the even better part. Those two games don't even have a line drawn between them.
Why did
there is no line connecting Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, so for all we know, those take place in separate timelines.
This feels unfinished. This feels like they put this on the board here and they didn't map them out.
They've run out of capacity to connect these games. They can't do it anymore.
Brian Gilbert to fix this and put these on. We need a new map.
Yep.
Okay, here's the question. Is the reason they are doing this because they are giving up on this timeline thing and they are straight up like, look, anytime we start a new iteration of one of these, not necessarily a sequel, but like a new version of these games, are we just going to give it its own timeline because fuck this, we don't want to do this anymore?
No, they want to do this.
Do they?
I don't know.
Because it seems like maybe they don't.
I don't know.
I thought these games came like way before.
That's what I thought too. I thought Breath of the Wild was supposed to be like an early entry in this whole thing.
What about the Zonai?
What about them? They're their own universe now, apparently.
This sucks.
I agree.
I don't even want to play that other Zelda game. Well, I do, but
this is my fault for reading this email, but I personally think the less thought about or discussed this is, the better.
No, this is this. I like.
It's a fool's errand.
Where do they fit in? How does it work? I'm with all the conceits here. Sure, you got Link is an archetype, not a character. There's split timelines because you got time travel. Sure, you have what's already built in. Just fucking put him in the right spot.
My favorite is the one that suggests that games with completely different art styles follow directly from each other.
All right, that's just silly.
It's like Wind Waker. I'm making this up, but it's like Wind Waker turned into Ocarina of Time. Those games look absolutely nothing like each other.
Why would you just shove these things in a little cup, a little bin?
Yep. And again, they did not connect the two games that are very clearly a direct sequel.
That's just broken.
Yep.
It is broken. Look, it's not worth getting mad over, but I'm mad about it. Yep. And all right, whatever. Moving on.
Free yourself.
I think the timeline is dumb, but Vinny, I'm 100% with you. If you're going to commit to it all the way. Don't do this bullshit.
Don't do this bullshit. You could have made it so much more meaningful. Instead,
Agreed.
You made it meaningless. All right,
maybe every so often they're just like, we just got to throw them another bone so they don't come at us. Give them something else to argue about so we don't have to hear from them.
You have failed.
Might as well have had Jon Hamm pooping on this. That's America's sweetheart. Pooping on it.
All right. Last email here from Abby. Different Abby. Hello, Alex, Brad, Dan, and Vinny. Who was not. This is about the Watchcast for Commando.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I just listened to the Commando episode of the Watchcast. It truly is the most Arnold movie, and it always shocked me how many people had not heard of it when I would tell them about it. In 2019, I adapted Commando as an old-time radio play with 3 voice actors and myself, performing sound effects with household objects as props.
Oh, that rules.
We had such a positive response that we brought it back again last year. A theater company in the UK picked up the script, and our performance is going to air on the senior citizen community radio station here in Winnipeg.
That's fantastic.
That kicks so much ass.
I've been a fan of you all since GameSpot, and I'm quite proud of this silly project, so I wanted to share the video of our performance since you were all so excited about the movie. It's about 45 minutes. I don't actually expect you all to sit and watch the whole thing, so I put some chapter markers to some highlights. Even if you don't watch it, I'm just happy to share that it exists. That's great.
Commando, what a film.
Mm-hmm.
What did Dan have to say? I don't know if I ever really asked. What did Dan have to say at the end? He's
profoundly in favor of Commando.
Like, still, it was his resolve was not shaken.
No.
Like, I think it's like maybe not his favorite Arnold movie, but very close to the top.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
What is his favorite Arnold movie?
I think it's got to be T2 because isn't that his favorite movie of all time?
If it's not still his favorite movie of all time, I'm sure it still ranks high enough that it is his favorite Arnold movie.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Commando, a piece of artistic treasure.
Mm-hmm. Yes. From the maker of Class of 1999.
Yes. In more and more formats these days.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it for the emails?
Yep.
Well, then that's going to do it for our show. Speaking of movies in the Watchcast, we have entered the next realm of the Watchcast, which is our thematic realm again. Alex Navarro, why don't you tell the folks what's going on in Watchcast territory?
We have entered the wonderful universe of This Ain't No Game. We are watching films that are based around video games, some real, some imagined, but are not based on video games in that this is not an adaptation of a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And our first one is The Wizard, because of course it is. That is already up on the Patreon right now for our $10 and up patrons. Live for everyone next week. And then, yes, we have a full schedule already up on the Patreon of the other 4 films we are doing.
With our next film being...
Tetris, the Apple original.
Good film. It's a fun one.
I still haven't seen it. I'm watching it tonight.
Nice. Yes, full schedule up on the Patreon. You can check that out along with a bunch of other stuff and goodies over at patreon.com/Nextlander. If you haven't joined, go join the thousands who have gone and given us their support over at patreon.com/Nextlander. And they have received things like Never Been a Better Podcast, where we have a group of people who, let's just say, made their way through the East Coast office, come join us once a month to tell us all about their trips, their endeavors into solar panels, their roofing, other things going on. That's Austin, Dan, Abby, am I leaving anybody out? And Bacalar. Come cycle through there. We've got the Ramblecast, video form and audio. You can see when we say, hey, I'm holding this up right now. You can see it. It's right there. You can go to patreon.com/Nextlander. You can see us holding up a thing. And much, much more. We've got a Planorama going up. We've got Patron's Choice, where you can go vote on what we play at the end of the month there. And one very special tier, the Mysterious Benefactors tier, which gets their names read on this here show. Alex Navarro, would you do the honor of reading those Mysterious Benefactors for us today?
Happily. Our Mysterious Benefactors for this week are Sean Miller, RRE, Infelicitous Rips, Bayfield, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deirdre is Headed to the Beach, Gary Pejsky, Robert Fisher, Bunny Fiend, Jad Rita, Statics, Fantasticasm89, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiepkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese.
Those are our Mysterious Benefactors for this week, and I want to give a special thanks to them and all the patrons who have supported us and continue to support us and who will support us. If you can find it within your means to support us, find a tier that is right for you there. We absolutely cannot do this without you. I've done the math, and we cannot I do the math every day. We cannot do this without you. So thank you again for supporting us there. If you're looking to support us, that's our number one means there. But thanks for everybody for watching, listening, and tuning in. We got a heck of a week coming up. Shorter week, but still a bunch of fun. I'll be streaming tomorrow. What am I streaming? Well, that's for me to find out and for you to find out tomorrow. There's a bunch of stuff I've got to go dig in. Hot off my trip. There's stuff out there. There's stuff out there. I'm going to find it. Brad, you're back on the Fallout tip?
Yes. That's my answer, yes.
Fantastic. Pure showmanship. Yes.
Got a bunch of guns last week.
Great. What's your favorite gun?
That 223 that I got in the hub
from
Irwin is pretty solid.
Great. Do you have a full inventory?
Yes, I have been managing weight for some time now.
Okay. Yes.
You have to steal from your companions to be able to give them stuff without. You can't do the actual barter interface, or they'll try to charge you money. But if you pickpocket them, then you can use them as extra inventory. It's a weird game.
Is there a check for the pickpocketing? Can you fail it?
Yes, but I've never had it fail.
Okay. You're just the master thief.
Fallout is a weird game.
It is. And then Friday we'll be back again with some more streaming. Our plan, and this is still in the works, so take this with a grain of salt, is to have Brad ship Brad over to the Volgar mines over at Remap. That's still in the works. We're still trying to figure out if that happens. Hopefully by the time you hear this, we have nailed that down. But they will be hosting that stream. Hopefully we can rebroadcast it over here on the Nextlander side, but we're nailing that one down. So if you enjoyed Brad and Patrick playing Volgar over here, you're going to pick up Volgar from where you left off, yeah?
Yeah.
You guys were neck and neck, I'll say, with Brad slightly ahead. A half a level, because there are kind of two parts to each level, right?
Something like that.
Something like that. So you can hopefully check that out on Friday. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll be back with another podcast next week. See ya.